then we're getting to. Why don't we just go in here? Like, is this a room? Where do we want to go? It's invites. All right, so no, that's not where we want to go. We wanted to go to. What's a good room that we can just kind of stream right beforehand? Wait, while I'm getting my chicken sandwich. Let's go to Nick Sorter's room. Nick Sorter is good. Nick Sorter. That's not Nick Sorter. Shouldn't it just show me Nick Sorter right away? Nick Sorter. Oh, because I spelled his last name wrong. Got it. Let's stream him. Okay.
Right? But then Donald Trump used it in such a way he was like, if anything, he was like the first real Twitter power user. Before him, people were just, using it as a
Guys, I'm gonna go
microblog.
get.
They're like, oh, I had dinner
Guys, I'm gonna
and
go get my
I
chicken
went to the
sandwich. I'll be right
park
back.
and I played with my dog. That was Twitter, right? Back then it was tweets. That's what it was called, Twitter, because it's meaningless. It's the sounds that birds make. But
And so it's
Trump
now
used it for
actually
something
the
else.
town square. That's
Exactly. Trump
it's what it's
turned
meant
it
to be.
into one. And this is also the reason why Twitter back then was so unprepared when it became a political battleground, right? When Gamergate happened in 2013, they were unprepared. They were like, "Oh shit!" And so they did a lot of they went overboard with the moderation. They added block lists. They added the algorithm to suppress people. They started banning people for making fun of NPCs. Remember the NPC thing? It was like 2015. They started banning people for that, and they just didn't know how to react to it because they were not prepared. They had a nice cushy gig, living in their Silicon Valley office. I'm sure you've seen those day in the life of a Twitter employee things, right? It was pathetic, and that's how it was for them. It was just chill. It's a place to tweet about your work day and how you had an avocado toast and a latte. That was what it was, but he changed the game.
Let me talk about Sebastian
Yeah,
Gordon.
and guys, real quick, Amuse, before you jump in here, because we're just about 14 minutes away from having President Trump on X here with Elon Musk live, and we'll carry that here. But I just want to remind everybody, up at the top, you'll see there is a link pinned to the top of the space. We're going to be having a massive after party with co-hosting with Alex Jones. We have Laura Loomer coming to the space, Gunther Eagleman, Juanita Broderick. We have a ton of massive MAGA folks coming here. CJ Pearson as well, if you guys know him.
What are we,
J.R.
chopped
Majewski.
liver?
It's going to be fantastic. And I'm super pumped for that.
I was saying,
but yeah, so
the same
about
thing.
13 minutes out now. But I want to ask one more time for the guys in the what should Elon be asking President Trump? That's what I want to know. That's what we want to know here on the panel. And you guys have been asking some really good questions. I'm hoping that Elon will actually take some of those questions. And before that starts, definitely make sure you follow, your host, me, Rawls Alerts, Jim Papp up here on the stage. We definitely appreciate that. But in the meantime, I want to get
What are
Dr.
we,
Sebastian
chopped
Gorka
liver?
in here, who we have on stage again. Let's see if your mic works this time. Let's try it. Dr. G, welcome to the stage.
It does, but is it lagging?
You're good
Oh,
now.
Trump
No,
Good.
it
tweeted
sounds
out
pretty
the
good right
space,
now.
guys.
You're good
He
now,
just started
Dr.
tweet.
Gorka.
It's up. Let's go.
Beautiful. Dr. G, what would you like to hear?
So my wife and I were at the convention, and the kind of gut punch from the president's speech, and I told Lara live on my show on Newsmax yesterday, is when he said right at the beginning of the convention speech, look, lots of people have asked me to talk about what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, and I'm only going to tell the story once and never again because it's just too painful. And I told Lara, you need to tell your father-in-law to tell that story everywhere, every day for the next, 86 days, because they're trying to deep six it. It's shocking that it hasn't changed politics in America forever, from Google on down, trying to memory hole it. And on top of that, it incredibly humanizes the president to talk about the fact that, Melania was watching it live as he was shot in the head, and then talk about that whole experience. So I'd like Elon to ask him about Butler, Pennsylvania, really, if anybody can get that message to him. And then I want the president to do the same thing for the next 86 days and stop. I don't want to hear about policy, because forget about policy. The Democrats will vote for a bag of potatoes if it's got a letter D on it. Our base is locked in. We've got at least 3 million Americans who are locked in for the president. Like every election, this is going to be one in the middle with the independents, with the undecideds, and we don't have time for policy. You talk about three things: kitchen table issues. You talk about the border, the issue that got him elected the first time. You talk about crime, which is, of course, intricately linked with the first one. And the most important of all is just quality of life, quality of life, quality of life. So, ask what the president tweeted. Was it yesterday? The Reagan question: are you better off than you were 4 years ago? So I want Elon to ask about Butler, and I want the president to lock in the three topics that he and his surrogates, all they need to talk about for the next 86 days is the border, crime, and standard of life. End of story.
Well, hey, Sebastian, what about Chris LaCivita? What do you want to see happen to him?
I want him to get his ass handed to him. I mean, that guy's a never Trump rhino, and he needs to go. The fact that he can't leverage the sympathy and the shock from Butler to have the president 20 points up in the battleground states, I mean, just can him now.
Yeah, but what does that mean when we're awaiting President Trump and Elon Musk to join to start speaking and having dialogue. We'll bring it to you and let you know as soon as that
Nick,
happens.
it's starting now.
But it's there. Yeah, well, it's
They're setting up.
Nobody. It's just silence.
Yeah,
So they're setting up. So we'll give it a few more minutes. But Chris LaCivita being a shakeup like that so close to the end of the campaign here, is that not a little bit worrying to you, Dr.
No,
Gorka?
not
I
at
know you
all.
work in the White House.
Look at 15, look at 16. I mean, look at Manafort, Corey, and Bannon. I mean, this is what happens, right? When you've got a problem, you ditch the guy and you go for the win. When Steve took over, President Trump was 16 points down thanks to the Access Hollywood leak, right? 16 points down. You bring in somebody like Steve, turns it around. So no, absolutely not worried about it. You need somebody in there who's a real pro, like Corey, like Dave Bossy. You need somebody who's MAGA and who has the interest of the president. Right now, and I'm not going to go into names, but the hardest of hardcore MAGA higher ups who've been warriors for the president have stood by him in courtrooms, in the press for the last 3.5 years, are being shut out by La Savita, right? And that's just wrong. The people we can trust are the kids and everybody who has proven themselves as warriors for the president in the last 8 years, and those people need to be in charge. End of story.
Yeah, and guys, we are awaiting President Trump and Elon Musk to begin speaking here. So as soon as they do, we'll let you know. We're monitoring here in the background, guys. But in the meantime, I want to go to Ivan Raikland, we have up here on stage as well. Ivan, welcome to the stage. What's going on, man?
Hey, Nick, thanks for having me. Thanks for hosting this. Fantastic. Sebastian Gorka is absolutely right. LaCivita is the biggest threat internally for President Trump, and because of his relationship with Kevin McCarthy. And so as we observe that, I think Kevin McCarthy is going to dangle his congressional leadership fund to basically say, you either take me in as chief of staff, and if you don't, I'm going to guarantee to fund the Democrats to win the House. And then Jamie Raskin on January 3rd is going to go ahead and file his draft resolution labeling Trump as the 14th Amendment Section 3 insurrectionist that they've been trying to do. So that's something, it's almost like a blind spot that needs to be addressed immediately, I think, after tonight. But thanks for having me. A question that Elon Musk should ask President Trump is, what do you want me to release within my Twitter files holdings that I haven't released yet? That's all I'll say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there are, we're talking about Twitter having tens of thousands of employees before, most of them being, woke people that were operating on behalf of the intelligence community for the longest time.
Right, because the number 2 lawyer
that's
at Twitter, Jim Baker, was the general counsel at the FBI during Crossfire Hurricane who authorized it and then moved over to Twitter 1.0 to cover all of it up and then facilitated the whole censorship regime with their contract company known as Reuters. I pronounce it Reuters. And then that,
I hear people calling it rooters, as in like, you know,
Reuters
plumbing.
is how I pronounce it. Anyway, they were the one that basically was the fact checker on behalf of Thomson Reuters, and the CEO of Reuters, James Smith, is on the board of Pfizer. So then you can see why everything on Twitter was to promote the Pfizer fail and products affiliated with it. Meanwhile, they dampened out and deleted anybody talking about the unsafe and ineffective nature of those products. That's just one category of what probably Jim Baker discussed and censored. One last thing I want to say is real quick. I had a 5-hour meeting with Matt Taibbi 2 weeks ago, and in that conversation, as we were kind of discussing, I call it the mother of all Twitter files, he asked me who should they look at, first and foremost, and it's going to be Jim Baker, hands down. He's the keys to everything. And then number 2 is I think it was James Baker that said to the Twitter files authors that you cannot go into the direct messages of user accounts. I wonder why. So maybe Elon can peek in there and start to unravel the entire cabal in the court of public opinion on X.
Yeah, and we're currently we're currently monitoring, waiting for Elon Musk to
Elon just jumped in.
join up and see. But in the meantime here, let's see. Hang on one second. Yeah, the Washington Post apparently did not get their way to stop the interview between President Trump and Elon Musk.
Yo, Nick.
Apparently
that's Joey Manarino, whatever his name is. Apparently, he's in Europe right now and is getting a thing that the space is unavailable.
Really? You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, I just sent it to you.
Well, who could have
imagine that? What did they not want to get out?
Thierry Burton.
So guys, I just want to remind you guys, keep in mind, we're going to be doing an after space as soon as Elon Musk and Donald Trump are finished. As soon as they are done having this interview that they're about to do here in just minutes, we're going to be having a space live with Alex Jones as my co-host and Roz Alerts, of course, and Laura Loomer will be there. Gunther Eagleman, tons of MAGA influencers will be here as well. That'll happen immediately after President Trump is done speaking. So so we're probably about 9 o'clock Eastern time, maybe 9:15 Eastern time. Make sure you set a reminder up at the top.
Do you know how long the interview is going to be, or is it 30 minutes, an hour?
No, it doesn't seem like they really know. So, but anyway, yeah, we'll find out. But anyway, guys, yeah. So that's what we'll do. You definitely want to join back after that. If you look at the top, there is a pinned post that you can actually set a reminder for, so you get an alert once we start that up here.
But you're going to stream it into the space, correct? So we don't have to leave?
Yeah, sure, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's what we'll do. Yeah, maybe that's what we'll do. But anyway, let's see. I don't know if it's going to. I'm trying to see how I feel about this. Like, are they going to? Spaces have been notoriously glitchy for the longest time.
This thing keeps the details pop up, Nick. Is it gonna? Then they go away. The details pop up. Then they go away. Is that happening for you too?
I mean, I'm on with my account just fine. I think you just have to refresh the app if you want to jump in.
It sounds like they're having some problems here getting it launched. Yeah, it may have just crashed, actually. Yeah, we're trying to monitor this at the same time. Our space has been pretty stable. I'm very very anal about every sort of move I make when hosting a space here. Ours is still stable. It looks like theirs is on the it's not working. A lot of people can't join the space, especially in Europe. Apparently, there's some issues out there as well. What's going on, Jim Paff? Hold on, I got him with me. He's here with me right now. What's going on, Jim?
Well, you go in and then you start. It shows and
then it crashes. Yeah. And then wow. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So there are a lot of glitches on the Spaces end for anybody trying to join the conversation between Elon and Donald Trump, which has not actually started yet. They have not started having a discussion. at this point because they're trying to work out the kinks. And we're going to keep everybody posted on how that's going. I really want this to, and you know, I've said as kind of a joke, and a lot of us have said it as a joke, is that this space is going to end up breaking the internet, and maybe it will. Maybe it's going to end up breaking the internet here, but and spaces in general. But as soon as that space starts functioning, we'll let you guys know, because as of now, it ain't working. You know, let me guys know in the bottom right-hand corner if you guys are having trouble, you know, even
I
seeing
mean, it's
the
weird
space.
because
Ours seems to
I'm
be...
on with my other account, Cam Ross, and it's just fine. So I'm just in a waiting room. It seems like Donald Trump is just playing the space music at the moment.
Space music. Yeah. Yeah, I'm really hoping this works out, because this is a not just a game changer for President Trump, it's a game changer for X. It's a game changer for X. If this is successful, if they can successfully hold an interview, the largest in the history of X by far is what this will be, then you know it'll be a game changer for both President Trump and the platform. The media wants so badly for this to fail. And I'm hoping to God that doesn't actually.
Yo, I can't get in on my other account. I've tried
here.
like 25 times.
Yeah, it's like I'm trying here. I can't get into it on my laptop. That's disappointing. But you know, this was done so last second, guys. This was done so last second with them planning this out. They had like 5 days from when they made it publicly, anyway. And spaces were just not. We've had problems where we start hitting glitches when we hit about 10,000 people in the room, usually. And this, we're seeing it immediately shot up to 125,000 or something. So I'm not surprised that they're not currently able to get this space launched. And like I said, we're monitoring it. As soon as it does work, I will let you know. I'll be the first to let you know. There are several of us up on the panel that are trying to, you know, anxiously hoping that it works here.
Yeah, and it would be the darndest thing.
As soon as you can go
in. It would be the darndest thing if a third party got involved and shut it down.
Well, you know, we saw this last week where it came out that the Trump campaign was saying that Iran had hacked into their internal communications and had retrieved documents.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't
such.
go that far. They had this issue with the DeSantis launch campaign too on Twitter, and this is going to be much bigger than the DeSantis launch. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah, but to be fair, you know, to be honest with you, Prodigal, this is not a difficult. It's not a difficult thing to crash a space. People try and do it to me all the time, constantly. I'm not going to name any names, but some people try to crash my spaces, and they're successful many of times. And so it's not. It definitely wouldn't be difficult for a nation state to do that if Twitter or X didn't have the ability to scale up as quickly as they wanted to, if they don't have the bandwidth and such. But right now, I don't know exactly what the issue is, but as soon as it hit 100,000 or 120,000 people, it immediately started dropping back down to 60-something thousand. And people, you know, I have Jim Paff, who's actually here with me right now. I'm watching him trying to join that space, and it kicks him out immediately. He tries to join, it kicks him out. So
maybe I got lucky then.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't know, but I'm hoping this works out. You know, as soon as it does, like I said, I'll let you know, and we'll. It's still doing. Hold on, yeah, Jim. An update from Jim Paff here.
Yeah, it's still doing the same thing.
Still doing the same thing. Yeah, and people tweeting right now. We just got Fox News Illusion just tweeting out, I cannot get into the Trump Elon interview. Says space not available. Anyone else? That's pretty much what it's saying to everybody. That's what people are reporting down in the comment section as well.
Yep, space
like
not
I said,
available.
As soon as we get any word that people are able to get into the space, we will let you know, and we'll end here and then immediately pick back up as soon as their space is over, which probably will be about 9:15, 9:30 Eastern time. Set a reminder up at the top. It'll be co-hosted by Alex Jones, Laura Loomer, and a hell of a lot of other MAGA patriots. Yeah. So right now, the people that are able to get into the space over there are reporting that all they're hearing right now is just elevator music and that's about it. But still, the vast majority of people are not actually able to even join the space. So, and I'm now getting reports that people aren't actually able to rejoin this space. Actually,
Yes,
so
I can actually read this.
you may not be able to hear my, as Brian Krasinski
Oops.
would call, annoying voice.
Yo, there's no way a
Testing.
Krasinski told
Yep.
you got an annoying voice. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me right now? The guy sounds like prepubescent Ben Shapiro. Like that just. I'll be honest with you. That bothered me more than the space not working. Like, oh, fuck's sake.
Listen, the truth is, I've said it once and I'll say it again. I'm
Here's
at
the chicken
peace
sandwich
with
you got.
however this election ends.
I ate a lot of
You
chicken
can beat a
sandwiches.
horse to water. If Gen Z and certain demographics want to vote in Harris, like, I wish you well. If you end up in a field in eastern Ukraine come winter, God bless. If you end up in the Middle East, God bless. They have nothing to run on. They just have coconut dance videos, and everything in your life is more expensive. And they prioritize foreigners and illegals
Prodigal, they got
over
they're
American
running
citizens.
on joy, buddy. You forgot about it.
Yeah, so did
So I'm
Mao.
just going to let you guys know I've gotten like a dozen messages over the past 60 seconds of people saying that they left to go check and see if they could get into President Trump's space, and now they can no longer get back into mine either. So I would recommend that maybe you just chill here, and we'll keep you posted on it, unless you just want to listen to
Elevator music.
silence and desperately try to get into.
Yo, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I didn't want to say it before because I didn't want to jinx it. But if I had my last dollar, I would have said this thing was going to crash.
Oh, yeah. Break the internet completely.
I mean, yeah.
Break the back of it.
Let's be honest.
100%.
Donald Trump and Elon Musk just proved that they're bigger than the internet.
That's a good point.
We all said that it was going to be a.
To be fair, though, X Spaces is notoriously
we all said that
glitchy.
this was going to break the internet. It looks like it has. So that put that on. Yeah, that's an accolade for President Trump. So I guess congratulations to President Trump for successfully breaking the internet, breaking all of spaces. And like I said, guys, we're going to keep you posted here. As soon as we have lots and lots of people trying to get in there, and they're keeping me posted, letting me know if they're able to do it, what's going on in the space. And currently, it looks like very, very few people are able to get in. And even if you do get in, you don't hear anything. So just, and Raw's Alerts just posting an update here at the top saying, breaking news. Currently, a major space featuring a conversation between former President Trump and Elon Musk is experiencing significant technical issues, possibly due to millions attempting to join and listen. And that's exactly what we're seeing. So it's not really in your best interest to go and try right now. But hopefully this will work out pretty soon. I do know, guys, I will say.
Is everyone surprised? I'm not surprised.
I guess it was probably 10 days ago. 10 days ago now when the chief spaces engineer announced his resignation along with his number two in command. They both left, and I'm assuming it had to do with the amount of pressure coming about. Maybe they heard that President Trump was going to be doing a space with Elon Musk, and he's like, "This isn't possible. We can't handle that yet. We're not ready for it."
They should do a stream. I said from the beginning they should do a stream.
We're gonna try to make it happen anyway. And they're like, "Okay, well, I'm out." Elon has he's known for being very ambitious, and he's accomplished a hell of a lot. Usually he's pretty successful with this kind of things, especially if you look at SpaceX, like the amount of stuff that they're able to accomplish in a short amount of time. But maybe.
Yeah, so Trump's
maybe
space,
this wasn't,
he posted 20 minutes ago, it has already 11 million impressions with 82,000 likes and 46,000 comments, so...
Yeah.
I mean, I find it funny that
nobody can get
that
in.
the people attacking Musk, and listen, I have some issues with him here and there, but it's like, these people are so inept right now that they're going to have to rely on him to rescue American astronauts stuck on a space station. Like these are people who've never built anything, never done anything, and they attack the only people who actually pay taxes, build things, employ private citizens. I mean, if you look at the jobs numbers. All the full-time jobs have gone to non-American citizens, and all the job growth, has been basically part-time jobs. I mean, Grant Cardone touched on it earlier. They're like, it's great. No, it's not great. People are forced to work 2 or 3 jobs now under the Biden-Kamala economy just to make ends meet. And I think that, this demonization of people who actually create things and build things is going to be something that hurts America and has hurt America. So listen, there might be some glitches with the space, but in the end, this is an avenue that doesn't exist anywhere else in social media and the internet, where you can actually get opposing opinions, that have been silenced, but been silenced by people who will lie to you about everything, whether it was the Wuhan lab, whether it was the effectiveness of experimental vaccines, whether it was, the Inflation Reduction Act reducing inflation. I mean, they need to silence the truth and any viable opposition so that they can, trick these idiots into supporting policies that lead to their demise. So, I mean, listen, hopefully the space goes on, but if it doesn't affect me or who I support or what I think is going on right now.
So, to everybody here, just congratulations and thank you for, not leaving, I guess. I really appreciate your support. Because if you did leave, you'd be listening to silence right now
So I'm getting
and
reports
probably
from
desperately clicking over and over and over
followers
again.
that it seems to be working now, but
Okay.
yeah, Wall Street
Let's
Bets
see.
just tweeted that out. It looks like it's working now. Interview has not started as yet.
It has not started yet. Jim, can you check on that?
I said it should be a live stream.
Okay, are you able to get in, Jim? Okay, Jim. Yeah, currently Jim Papp currently can't get in. Apparently, maybe some people can get in, some people cannot. We're working on it. I know I can't get in on PC. I'm trying to log in on PC and I'm not able to do it. But
it might be like a mobile thing.
Hoping
Then
that will
I
help
don't know.
I'm running PC, desktop, and laptop right now, and I can't get nothing going.
But regardless, guys, just know that after and I do have faith that this is going to work. At some point, this space will launch. It will proceed. President Trump will have a conversation with Elon Musk tonight on X, even if that means that they have to do a live stream instead of a space. They're going to get it done. Guarantee it. It'll work. So we will hear that at some point tonight. And after that is over, we will have our after space here. Just remind you again, with Alex Jones as co-host, Laura Loomer, Gunther Eagleman, lots of different MAGA folks. It's going to be a full-on MAGA space, and it's going to be fully American, run by Americans, co-hosted by Americans, full-on MAGA space. That's what we're looking forward to right after President Trump is done with his interview with Elon Musk. And no, the Krasensteins will not be there for anybody in the audience section.
Apparently, Drew Hernandez is in on my network. So if it starts playing, you want me to play it?
Yeah, definitely.
I also have it on my other phone, so I can also play it too if you want.
Okay. Yeah, so basically, we're going to keep you posted here on when this starts, when they start speaking, when there's some sort of audio. A lot of people, I literally just now got this message this second saying, I literally can't open any space, including yours, that is conservative. Lots of reports of that. And hopefully
that's how you know we got the good stuff.
We got the good stuff here. Yes. So we, by the way, guys, we do have the largest. We have the largest currently functioning space on X. So congratulations to you all for being in the audience. Really appreciate USA. But anyway, no shade at anybody else. I just letting you know.
Hey, Nick, you mind if I drop in with a little bit of news?
Yeah, may as well. It'll shut me up for a second.
Yeah, I'll be real quick here. I just wanted to let everybody know that the Democrat district attorney here in Harris County, who at one point did take money from George Soros when she ran the first time, she has announced that she has an investigation into the Harris County elections in 2022, and she's going to be announcing her findings tomorrow at a press conference. We suspect that she's going to... Yes, indeed.
Harris County what?
Harris County, Texas. This is Houston, Texas. And so this is the largest, third largest county in America, but largest county in Texas, and she also is the same Democrat district attorney who endorsed Ted Cruz publicly last week. I was at that event when it happened. It was a big event, and then this was timed 1 week later, and we are going to find out that they indeed basically altered documents. So the Democrats did cheat in the
That chicken
2022
sandwich was
election. We
delicious.
have it all
Absolutely
documented.
delicious,
Is what
guys.
I expect to hear come out of her mouth next week as she spills the beans on her own party and levels with the American people on what Democrats are doing. And this is important to everyone in the rest of the nation because it sets precedent and allows other counties
One thing I hate
and
about
states and
eating greasy
cities to
food,
look at
though,
what's going on
is I have
in
to
their
like
Democrat stronghold to make
I
sure
can't
that they're
like
not
easily
pulling the
use my
same tricks.
laptop
So
because I just don't
we're
want to like cover it in
investigating the
grease.
Democrat playbook, exposing stuff with it, and we have people in their own party that took George Soros money that are turning on their own. That's how nasty it is in the Democrat Party right now, and that's how far off base these people are,
Should I stream
and
a
that's how
game while
radical
they
the
talk, I guess?
Democrat district attorney candidate Sean Tier is this go
Yeah.
around. He is really radical.
So, guys, just to kind of give you an update here, letting you know that I'm
That's weird.
sitting with several other people with and looking at them try to join the space with President Trump from their phones, and it basically, once you try to join, it kicks you out immediately, says that this space
Yeah.
has closed,
You guys want to see what I see? It's
and then
mainly
you can't rejoin any other space. So as soon as you
yeah.
disconnect here, you're not going to be able to rejoin,
Yeah, so that's
most
why I'm
likely.
not leaving this space for the
But
most part,
as
but
soon as you do, as soon
this
as
is
we
what I
start
generally
hearing
say.
something, as soon as we know that you'll be able to connect, we'll let you know. We'll close this down, and then we will restart uh, immediately after President Trump is done with Alex Jones and Laura Loomer and folks. So just stick by here. Right now, there is no. So for the people that are in the Trump space, these are people that were there very early on for the most part. Those are the ones that were able to join. If they leave, they're probably not going to be able to rejoin either. But all they're hearing right now is elevator music, and until people are successfully able to join the space, they're probably not going to start talking. But if they do start talking and the glitches are still rampant, we're going to stream that right here in our space for the people that have hung on and stuck with us through
Yeah.
all these
I
these
mean,
switches.
So
Nick, I
hopefully
will
we can
say
get
one
this to
thing.
work, guys.
I see a lot of
So
black pilling, and
look, here's the plan to get this to work tonight, guys. We're gonna stay in this space. This space is run by a few like big accounts or whatever that probably won't be able to stream it. I don't know. I think Nick is at Breitbart or something, so I think he has like an actual streaming apparatus. But we'll stream this for a bit. We hope we can get Donald Trump and Elon Musk on here for you all. Whether that's with Nick's platform here, where they're gonna stream it, or we get into it ourselves. We're gonna try and get it. But thank you for your patience. They should have done a live stream. A live stream would worked a lot better. I don't know if they're trying to go for this break the internet narrative, but I don't know. Yeah, if you go to space, well, you can just go to like real Donald J Trump, and it should be the first post. Yeah, so if you want to stream this as well, guys, just go to real Donald Trump. So literally just go to his X profile. I'm on this one, but you can go here. It's gonna be the first post, literally right here. The problem is, once again, guys, it's just not connecting how we would think it should connect. It's not on our end. If we try to click this, nothing happens. If I try my phone, I can join, and then it clicks and says unable to join. So, oh shit. Okay. I was able to get out of that. There you go. This should be better. Give you guys a better view of the stage and everything. Okay, let me go off mute for y'all.
People forget this is somebody who was so unpopular, she had to drop out before the first votes were cast in the Iowa caucuses. So, just keep at what you're doing, because in the end, the truth always shines through. And,
You know
I'll
what?
end with that.
I'll agree with that statement. And one more, let me say this. As soon as we get Kamala Harris on Twitter Space and she starts cackling and she starts with her profound moments of brilliance that she comes with, when stumbles over her words the whole times, and we're unburdened from the burden, then
Yeah, the
the average
burden of
voter,
having money.
yeah, because we're unburdened from our money after 4 years of her and Biden, we're going to wind up, well, not us, but I mean, anyone else considering to vote for her should start to
Unburden
think
your
twice.
money in future to Kamala
Breaking.
so
Hold
she
on.
can
Hold
give
on.
it to illegals.
Guys. Elon just tweeted. There's appears to be a massive DDoS attack on X. Working on shutting it down. Worst case, we will
You were right,
proceed
Nick.
with a
I
smaller
apologize.
number of live
Thank you,
listeners
Jack.
and
DDoS
host
attack on X.
conversation later. That was from Elon Musk.
Yeah, like I said, it would just be the dangest thing if there
Wow.
was a third party
Okay.
that was going to dive in there. And yeah, kind
Let's
of
go to
could
Wow.
that.
call that one.
I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad we didn't end here, because what Elon is basically saying right now, he's saying, so yeah, a massive DDoS attack, which is essentially, I don't know. I'm just going to say this in very try to say it in layman's terms here. It's a denial of service attack. It's basically they're sending somebody, some sort of actor, based on what Elon Musk is saying, is sending a hell of a lot of bullshit traffic to X in order to basically melt the servers. I know that's
Probably
It's
close.
odd.
It's good enough for the layman. That's good enough. They
It's
got a
odd
bunch of
corporate media
computers they
isn't painting
hijacked.
this as foreign interference on behalf of the Kamala campaign. I mean, you literally had a foreign actor, break into and leak materials from the Trump campaign. Now you basically have either independent foreign actors or foreign nations trying to limit
This
it.
amounts to a massive donation to the
No,
Harris
it's not a
campaign,
massive
is what it
donation.
amounts
My
to.
point is they painted Trump as a Russian asset and closet spy based on nonsense that was debunked in the Mueller report. But when you have the same thing happen on the left, they say nothing. You look at how they covered Trump's tip thing. They said it's going to cause a $250 billion deficit, for CBS News says. And then when Kamala does it, they go, oh, my God, it's so great for the working class. Meanwhile, she cast the tie-breaking vote to make sure the IRS went after service workers' tips. I mean, these people are just outright propagandists, prostitute liars.
Say anything to get elected. Low life politicians. Did I get it?
Well,
Did
the
I get it right?
media.
Well, yeah, these people have no moral compass anymore. They'll say anything. They'll pivot. They'll change. I mean, be real. I mean, that's what the American people have been waiting for. Be real. You are what you are. Oh well. And we got that with Trump, but then they wound up beating him up everywhere they could because he was real. He was real and unpolished and raw. And now we have to contend with Obama, who is the smoothest talker probably of our generation that we're ever going to see. Now we have this infrastructure that was built around him to protect him in what I call the racial force field around him. Oh my God, can't challenge him because he's the first black president. So that wound up allowing him to do things that most other candidates or presidents could never do, because it was, you can't touch them or we're going to label you a bigot and a racist. Well, that's lost its energy. That's lost its power. So now they're going to come with the first woman presidents. They're going to, do this on identity here. And we're going to say whatever we want. And because people hate President Trump so bad because they built the prejudice against him so well, they did this masterfully, destroyed his character. Now, because they've done that, these people don't even care that Kamala Harris diverted democracy, didn't get one vote, and she's now here with this guy who he was part of burning down most of America. And no one is batting an eye on the left because they bought into the storyline of how horrible this man is. It's absolutely sickening what has happened, the propaganda in our country. And we need to get a government in there. We need to get elected officials in there. They're going to have the stones to start to pull away the power the government has on distributing propaganda, starting with the Smith Modernization Act of 2012, to start to pull those tools away from them so they can't lie to the American people. And the American people need to look around at one another, look at their paycheck, and be like, wait a second, I'm in control here. Because that's how this country was built. That's why we are a constitutional republic. We are in control here. And government needs to start to understand that.
Yeah, so this is indeed a DDoS attack. This is meant to silence President Trump. Somebody does not want President Trump to be able to have this platform to speak freely to millions of people without the mainstream media being able to put some sort of filter or spin on the conversation. And we're not going to let them win. We're not going to let them win. I'm confident that Elon is not going to let them win either. He's going to pull out all the stops. He's going to make this work one way or another. As I said earlier, even if they don't do a space together, they can do a live stream together right here on X, and probably throw this together, within the next half hour. They both have massive teams on their sides. They can put them, even if they're not together, which I don't think they are currently. I think they're in remote locations. Not 100% sure of that. But even if that is the case, they can make this live stream happen. Hell, I'm just some guy that whines on this platform for a living, and I could throw that together in a half hour. I know they could do that. Live streaming on X is a little bit more resilient than spaces are. As I was saying earlier, I said that, my spaces have been attacked before. I'm not saying they've been attacked by Iran. I have no idea who they've been attacked by. I mean, I have guesses, but besides that. And Elon Musk actually just came out and he just said another tweet here. He said, we tested the system with 8 million concurrent listeners earlier today. And I'm assuming the results of that test were positive, or else they probably wouldn't be moving forward with this. But, this is not a difficult thing to do. A DDoS attack is not particularly difficult for even some kid in his basement to do. It doesn't even have to be a nation state. It can just be a small group of, even low-funded
It could
people
be NAFO.
come
Who
together
knows?
just
I
to,
mean, the left has
it
a
could
bunch
be,
of
yeah.
doxing and hackers that love to just terrorize people for engaging in free speech and pro-American policies. I mean, there's a lot of people who hate America and love foreign nations and foreign war and everything that goes along with it. So who knows?
Nick, I just got word.
But
Elon Musk and Donald Trump heard you just talking right now, and they said, hey, this guy Nick is right. Why don't we just do a live stream?
Or they
like, I heard their palms to forehead I was like, wow, they heard you, Nick.
Damn, I'm voting for
So,
Kamala if they're listening to Nick at this point.
Yeah, right. I'm just saying. Hey, I'm just letting you know our space currently works. So if anybody wants to reach out to the Trump team or Elon and invite them here,
well, there goes the space.
yeah, we'll do it. We'll just have them here instead. Our space is currently live, and I don't think anybody can actually join though. And all the people that are messaging me are telling me that they're not able to actually rejoin the space once they leave.
Yo, I'm just thinking about how pissed off Trump was at CBS for being 35 minutes late.
Probably back to behind the scenes.
He's going to come in and be like, you can't even get your fucking spaces working right.
Yeah. Oh, your big fucking servers. You couldn't even get them going right, huh? I've been sitting there. I was respectful. I was 35 minutes early. You can't even get your shit together, huh, Elon?
He's literally gonna start the space up. The guy thinks he's going to Mars. He can't make a phone call.
We ain't going to Mars. You can't even get a fucking space going.
No, I feel very bad for them because I know that the Spaces team has been working. I've seen it. There was even just earlier, even right before. So the thing that kind of worried me just a little bit, and I will say this, we have an intimate group here of I guess 3,700 people. So I guess I'll just say this in front of the intimate group of 3,700 people because nobody else can join. So this is pretty much our little fireside chat at this point. It did worry me a little bit when they were sitting there load testing spaces an hour before the President
Well, they
Trump
did it last
was
night too.
meant to
They
jump
did it
on.
last night too. I saw he had tweeted that.
Yeah, and I guess maybe they were just confirming it again, but it's who knows. Unfortunately,
breaking news: Brian Krasentine keeps messaging the space saying, "Can you let me up?" Meaning the Donald Trump space, because he thinks Donald Trump's going to let him up.
if anything, I'd ban him from that space. I mean, he's just a troll
That's
at
rich.
this point. I'm sorry, he's just a troll. He's
I liked him
totally.
better. I
You know,
liked him better when he was a Justin Bieber and crypto account. You know, when he's that kind of shit.
You know what? I didn't mind them. I'll say this just to our little intimate group of 3,700 people that are here. You know, I didn't mind that. I've met with the Krasensteins before. I've talked to them in person because I like to pick these people's brains and be like, what the fuck are you on? Okay, what are
They
you?
moved to Florida. That's all you need to know. They make a living.
Okay, hang on a second. We got. Okay, Elon is saying we will proceed with the smaller number of concurrent listeners at 8:30 Eastern time, and then post the unedited audio immediately thereafter. So what we're going to do here, guys, is we're going to stream it directly in the space here, because we do have people. Kevin Smith, do you still have the feed?
I still have it on my phone right now, so.
Okay,
Oh,
perfect.
perfect.
Are you able to stream it
Yeah.
here for us?
All right, so we're gonna stream it on this, guys.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because they're apparently not going to let anybody in here. They're not going to let anybody into the space. That's
For the
currently
6,000 people
going
who
over there.
left, poor choice, poor bet. You should have stayed.
Poor choice.
Go back to the Krasentines. They only live about 20 minutes away from me. I've offered to meet up and buy them a beer, maybe an apple juice, whatever they drink. Nothing.
Yeah.
Why don't they live in a blue state? I mean, why are they running to red Florida? I mean, they're just listen. People who make a living off of this, especially on the left. Listen, they're paid to lie and they make good money. God bless them. But you shouldn't really be taking life advice from these people.
They live in the same county as I do.
Really.
They live in the same county as I do, and the numbers are about 100. Democrats is 107,000. Republicans is 226,000. That's where they live.
Trust their actions, just like Kamala. Her words are meaningless. Look at what her policies and actions are. Same thing with the Krasensteins. He could say whatever the hell he wants, but he chooses to live in a red county in a red state. So,
looks
buyer beware.
Sorry to interrupt. It looks like there's over.
Oh, I think I was able to get in.
Rising,
Yeah.
so maybe they fixed the space, but I'm not too sure. But there's over 150,000.
Well, yeah. Well, we're gonna try to. I'm gonna try to rejoin from another device here, and I'll let you know immediately if you are able to join up. Elon Musk seems to be kind of throwing in the towel here a little bit, saying
Nick, you could join.
All right, we got it, guys. We're gonna be able to share it here. We're in. Yeah, guys, we're just waiting for the stream to start. We're in the space. You're just hearing the elevator music. That's from President Trump's feed. And as soon as Elon and Trump start, I guess we'll hear them. And don't worry, and for the most part, I'm gonna be shutting up while they're speaking, guys. So don't worry, you won't have to hear my obnoxious voice. Hey guys, so I think it's starting here. I'm hearing something from Donald Trump's end. The music stopped. So quick update, guys. Elon got booted from that space. Not what the intended outcome is. They said that they're going to be doing this regardless. So eventually it will be streamed and recorded, so you'll be able to hear President Trump. And before that one starts, guys, I'm going to go back to the space we were at before with Nick Shorter and a bunch of other people giving some live commentary on President Trump and Elon Musk's interview on X Spaces. And as soon as Elon Musk and Donald Trump start talking, we will go to that interview and I will be silent.
Just tweeted President Trump smirking, saying it's official. President Trump has broken the internet. Wow, that did way better than I expected it to. But anyway, it's true. Yeah, it seems like President Trump, one way, no matter how you square it, no matter how the mainstream media is going to try to sell it to you, President Trump has broken the internet, folks. That's what happened here tonight. So currently waiting on this. Don't know if they've resolved the DDoS attack issue. As soon as President Trump and Elon Musk
Is
start
that Jim
speaking,
or is that the space?
you're going to hear it here. That's Jim. Jim's playing with something in the background here.
Oh,
Apparently they're
No,
speaking.
yeah, not the
Apparently
space.
they're speaking.
They are speaking. They're on YouTube.
I can't. I got
No.
it open.
Oh.
I can't see nothing. I can see speaking, but
Yeah,
nothing.
nobody is currently speaking. So
they said
no,
YouTube.
I'm speaking.
Ian Miles Chong says
I'm
they're
speaking.
No, I was just on YouTube and I left to try this
Okay,
again.
well, I have the space
No,
open
try
here, and
YouTube if they're streaming on YouTube. Then maybe.
No, there's a
Yeah, it
lot of
says it's
scam
16
YouTube
minutes
channels
till
that's
the
just
stream.
streaming.
yeah, you guys got to be very careful about what you're
Well,
looking
Ian
at
Miles
here.
Chong
It's
said it.
not.
I didn't say it. It was.
Yeah, he did say it 2 minutes ago.
I said it, but you're right. Maybe it was a scam. Someone sent it to me and it was Elon speaking. He was talking about crypto. I didn't see Trump.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
scam.
of course. Those happen all the
Yeah.
time. So I don't know what you're listening to in the
All
background.
right, Elon's
they're
back.
the same thing. Okay, Elon's back. We're gonna wait and see if there's any speaking activity here. Currently monitoring it. We have several people. I guess, guys, should we just keep the space open and simulcast
Yeah.
it? Is that the way we're gonna do this?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. All right, sounds good. Yeah, and then right after the space is over, right after the Trump Elon interview is over, we'll have Alex Jones, Laura Loomer jump in here if we do, for whatever reason, decide to end it, or the space crashes or whatever. We do have a link pinned to the top that already has 7,200 people signed up to go to it. Jeez. So yeah. Anyway, still waiting here, just for the people that are
947,000 right now.
Yeah,
That's what the number's up to. I'm in it. I just don't hear nothing.
Yeah. That nobody seems to hear
Well,
anything
what does
over there.
CNN do with all their airport feeds? 100 and 200,000? What do they got?
Yeah, for the longest time, that was their top market. Actually, funny enough, it was
Well, they
airports,
paid
CNN
for
in
it.
the airport. So their numbers were all inflated by airports. They're still inflated.
Which is
They're
like
full of shit. They're
traveling is
fake news.
already misery. You got to watch that crap.
Yeah. Fake news, fake ratings, fake all that. Our spaces here get a hell of a lot more ratings than CNN does. I guarantee you that one. But
Well, what does a
anyway, yeah, still
DDoS
anxiously
attack
waiting
actually
here.
mean, Nick? I mean, because Elon was posting that they're trying to allow certain groups
The
in.
DDoS attack is essentially, in layman's terms, it's some actor, if what he's saying is true, is sending, ungodly amounts of traffic, artificial traffic, to the space to try to crash it. That's
Oh, so he's pulling it
that's what
It's a
basically a denial of service attack.
It's a script that goes into people's computers like yours when you're off of it. All of a sudden, if you looked at your bandwidth, at the end of the month from whoever your provider is, you're going to see there were spikes in it. There might be a script in your computer that was hijacked to send traffic somewhere. That's what DDoS does. But we're talking millions of computers all at once. That's the most layman.
Yeah.
My cousin does stuff with that on the good side.
So does anybody here know if Elon and Trump are in the same location? Do we know that? Rawls alerts, maybe. Do you know that? I don't know.
I
He's
have
busy
no
working
idea.
on
I
the
think
things in
they're
the
in a
background.
separate location.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Donald Trump Jr. just posted something out that says that's funny. It's I'll pin it to the top of the space here, guys. And if you're new to spaces here, you click on the bar, bring up the space where you see all the speakers, scroll to the top.
We're saturated. We think we've overcome most of that, and so it's now time to proceed. But as this massive attack illustrates, there's a lot of opposition to people just hearing what President Trump has to say, and but I'm honored to have this conversation. I want to emphasize it's a conversation, and it's really intended to just get a feel for what Donald Trump is just like in a conversation. It's hard to catch a vibe about someone if you just don't hear them talk in a normal way. And when there's an adversarial interview, like no one's themselves in an adversarial interview. So and this is really aimed at kind of open-minded, independent voters who just trying to make up their mind. And so you can understand like what is what is it just like to have a conversation. So honored to Donald, great to speak. We had a great conversation yesterday. As you mentioned yesterday, if we could just record that conversation and post it, it would have been excellent. And I hope we can have something like that today.
Well, I think we will. I'm pretty sure we will. And congratulations, because I see you broke every record in the book with so many millions of people. And it's an honor. We view that as an honor. And then you do want silencing of certain voices. Usually those are voices that have something to say that are constructive, oftentimes constructive. And
Yeah.
so we have to consider it an honor. But congratulations on breaking every record in the book tonight. That's great.
Well, thank you. Well, I mean, maybe we could start off with, the assassination attempt, which was an incredible thing. And I have to say that your actions after that assassination attempt were inspiring. Um, you, instead of shying away from things, instead of ducking down, um, you were pumping your fist in the air and saying fight, fight, fight. And I think that's, I mean, the president of the United States represents America, and I think that is America. That is strength under fire, and so that's a big part of the reason why I was excited to endorse you as the president of the United States for having another term here is that was just incredibly inspiring. But I mean, what was it like for you?
Not pleasant, I have to
Not
be honest.
pleasant.
I said there was
I
blood. I
mean,
had
being
more
shot is
blood.
not
I didn't
much
know I had.
fun.
I didn't know I had that much blood. The doctors later told me that the ear is a place that is a very bloody place if you're going to get hit. But in this case, it was probably the best alternative you could even think about because it went at the right angle, and it was a hard hit. It was very, uh, I guess you would say surreal, but it wasn't surreal. I was telling somebody you have instances like this, or like a lot less than this, where you feel it's a surreal situation, and I never felt that way. I knew immediately that it was a bullet. I knew immediately that it was at the ear,
Yeah,
and because it hit very hard, but hit the ear. And I also heard people shout, "Bullets, bullets!" Get down, because I moved down pretty nicely, pretty quickly, and we had bullets flying right over my head after I went down. So I'm glad I went down. The bigger miracle was that I was looking in the exact direction of the shooter, and so it hit me at an angle that was far less destructive than any other angle. So that was the miracle. That was
yeah.
for those
Split
people that
second.
don't believe in God. I think we got to all start thinking about that. You have to, I'm a believer now. I'm more of a believer, I think, and a lot of people have said that to me. A lot of great people have said that to me, actually. But it was amazing that I happened to be turned just at that perfect
Yeah.
angle, and all because I put down a chart on immigration that showed that the numbers were so great. I love that chart
I
even
mean,
more
maybe it's
now
a
than I was.
sign. Maybe
Yeah,
that's a sign.
it's an immigration sign.
You
But
highlighted a serious issue, and
yeah,
at that moment, the
that's
the, the,
right.
the bullet missed hit your ear, but missed your head. I mean,
Well, the
yeah,
amazing thing is that the sign. I said, bring down that sign on immigration, and it was literally about an eighth of a second where it would be good, and after that it was going to
yeah,
be a disaster no matter which way you were facing. But it just had that perfect angle, which was
yeah,
exactly at this shooter. Very sad situation. Such a sad situation. As you know, we lost somebody that was great, Corey,
yeah,
who a firefighter, a great gentleman, a great trumper. He was just a fantastic family and a fantastic man. And a friend of mine came up, Elon, and said, "I'd like to give the family some kind of help." And I said, "All right, that's great." He said, "Do you mind?" I said, "I don't mind at all." And he wrote out a check for $1 million, gave it to the wife. And, you know, uh, she said, "This is really nice, but I'd rather have my husband back," which is a nice thing for
sure,
somebody to say, to be honest. She's great. The family is great. And we raised a lot of
yeah,
money for them and for two other gentlemen are unbelievable people also. They were hit really badly. They thought they were not going to make it, and they did. The doctors in the Butler area, I tell you, they were incredible. They saved the two, and they were really hit tough, both of them
yeah,
equally. And we thought
yeah,
my first question was because I heard bullets flying over me. I said, "How many people were killed?" Because we had a massive crowd there, a tremendous
yeah,
thousands and thousands of people, and there was no land. I mean, it was all people. So I said, "How many people have been killed?" Because I knew there were other shots being fired,
sure,
and they said, "We don't know yet, but some people have been badly hurt." And I have to give the Secret Service sniper, they call him, or sharpshooter, but sniper,
yeah,
because he didn't know there was a problem. He's an extraordinary shot, obviously, and he didn't know there was a problem, and he was
yeah,
able to pick it all out within 5 seconds. and he used one bullet from very far away, I guess probably about 400 yards. The shooter was 130, but he was on the
Yeah.
he was on the opposite side of the field and the podium, and he saw the smoke and the flame from the gun, immediately recognized it, and immediately took a shot. And it was one perfect shot from very far away. And if he didn't do
Yeah.
that, Elon, he would have. I mean, if he would have, a lot of people, a lot more people could have been
Sure.
badly hurt and killed. So
Yeah.
I have to
Absolutely.
take my hat off to him because that's also a surreal. You know, he's been with them for 23 years, and
Yeah.
he's never had anything like this. And all of a sudden, he has to act, and it's a very tough thing to
Sure.
act and to be shooting somebody. But he saw the gun, saw the smoke, saw the flame from the gun, very far away. I obviously has very good eyes. He's got very good vision, which assume you have
Yeah.
to have in that particular work. But he took
Absolutely.
aim very quickly, and it was they say it was approximately 5 seconds from long range,
Yeah.
one bullet. If that didn't happen,
Yeah.
because the shooter had a lot of bullets, he had a lot of cartridges up
Sure.
there with him, so could
Well,
have been very.
I mean that's clearly he was very confident in taking that shot to stop the attempted assassination. But I mean there does seem to be I mean some pretty significant failings elsewhere in the system. Like there's just no way that like how on earth does a shooter get on a roof 130 yards away? That seems crazy. I think most people what people are wondering how on earth could such a thing happen?
Well, I view it as two ways. There should have been nobody on the roof. There were people,
Yeah,
because there were so many tens of thousands of people there. There were people that were seeing him, and there was one woman with a red shirt and
right.
Trump all over
I
it,
saw
and
the videos.
she's screaming, "That guy's got a gun!" You saw it probably. There's
Yeah.
a
No, I
guy
saw
up
the
there with
videos.
a
I
gun.
mean,
So,
it's like I guess I mean, for my part, and I think probably many members of the public are wondering how the heck are you know basically people wondering by it, pointing out there's a guy on the roof with a gun.
yeah.
And they're seeing it, but somehow it's not being addressed. That does seem
Yeah,
crazy.
well, they're going to learn from this. The communication between the local police, who sort of had an idea, and then ultimately a man lifted himself up to the roof, could barely do it because he was pulling himself up, and
Yeah,
he saw the man with the gun. The man with the gun pointed the gun at him. He thought he was probably going to get shot, but he was like pulling himself up, and because of that, he couldn't get to his gun, and he fell down. Actually, very badly hurt his leg, his ankle. I hear very badly,
okay.
but he fell down, and he did. From what I understand, he did say there's a guy up there with a gun, and the shooting started very quickly after that. I think it forced the shooter to go maybe quicker. He was supposed to be a very good shot.
Yeah,
My sons, Don and Eric, they can't believe what happened, but they said from 130 yards, a bad shot would hit that target almost every time. They said it's like in golf,
yeah,
sinking a 2-foot putt.
yeah. It's not a tough
No,
shot.
it's not a
Um,
long shot. The Secret Service person had the long shot. He had triple the
yeah,
distance actually. So it was a terrible thing. Look, it's hard. I have to say this about the Secret Service. When I went down, and I went down based on, I think, they're screaming, but other people also, because people saw this happen. You had so many people. One of the miracles was that nobody ran. I mean, if a gun goes off, the crowd
yeah,
control people showed us this. When guns go off, and it does happen in stadiums at a soccer match or some kind of a match, everybody flees. They call it a stampede, like cattle. But everybody, and a lot of
yeah.
people get killed with those stampedes. We had
Sure.
more people than you'd have at some of these matches or these games, and nobody left. You had a small group behind us in the grandstand, and that was full. And you look at it as it was taking place, and normally they'd be running. They didn't leave. They saw that I was hurt. They saw a lot of blood, and they saw that I went down, and it's almost like they wanted to be with me. Well, out front, you had thousands, tens of thousands of people. You, as far as the eye could see, you had people in Butler, as far as the eye could see, and
Yeah,
and a lot of press too. There was, you know, many cameras on watching this. It's what makes it so different, because normally things happen that aren't good, but you never have a picture of it. Here we have all these cameras shooting it, so
yeah,
you know, sort of amazing. But one of the interesting things was that you didn't have anybody flee, you didn't have anybody stampede,
sure.
nobody. And there were some people behind me. They stood up and they're looking like, you know, I mean, I tell you,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
want to have them in a foxhole with you. I want to meet some of those people
sure,
because
sure.
it's so different from what you heard. But so I was down, but the Secret Service
Yeah,
guys, there were bullets flying right over my head. You could hear them go whizzing,
yeah,
and these guys came jumping on top of me, you know, and a young lady, Kate, uh, would jump. They moved so fast, and let me tell you, that took tremendous courage. Now there was a lack of coordination. There was, you know, obviously everybody understands that somebody that building should have been covered, and
yeah. I mean,
that was
I
the
think
big
that
thing.
like, I mean, looking at the aerial views, that building would be like the number one spot for a sniper. I mean, it's like the if you were to pick like what is the favorite place, what if you so if the goal is to assassinate, what's your favorite spot? That building, the
You're
roof of
right.
that building would be number one.
That would have been the spot.
It's like you can ask for a better
No,
location. It's like number
no, that
one.
would have been the spot.
Um,
You know what people think
yeah,
is when the local policeman, who, by the way, you know, he really he did what he was supposed to do. He couldn't hold on any longer. And then when he got
yeah,
his head just peeking above, this guy standing there with a gun at his head. And when he fell down, again, hurt his ankle very badly, but he was making the calls. But what happened is the firing took place very soon. So what they
yeah,
think is that this guy ran to his site, which he had all planned out with the gun. He ran to the site and he started shooting fast, and maybe that's why well, he sort of missed. I mean, you know, he uh,
yeah. But
he
as you
got
said,
me, but
he would have hit.
it could have been a much
Yeah.
bigger problem.
But he totally would have hit if you hadn't turned your head. So, like there was it was a very near
It
thing.
was a
So,
miracle. If I hadn't
um,
turned my head,
yeah,
I would not be talking to you right now. As much as I like you,
exactly.
I would not.
Yeah,
I would
well,
not be talking to you.
maybe talking to me from another realm, perhaps.
Yeah, that's
Um,
right. We'd be talking from a
so
different place. But it was a it was a very terrible experience. The Butler Hospital, they did such a great job. The doctors were so good. Everybody was so good. There was a mistake if somebody knew, because people were hearing that, there was just a bad feeling that there was somebody was around. You know that story now. It's been pretty
yeah,
well.
yeah,
And
yeah,
if somebody could have said, because they've oftentimes said, like there'd be a lightning storm or something, because I've done, I think, over 300. I think I did a lot more than that, but we did a lot. And oftentimes they'll say, sir, could you wait 10 minutes, please? Sir, could you wait 20 minutes? There's a storm overhead or lightning or something, right? And
yeah,
that happens
yeah,
often. And this would have been a perfect time for that to have happened, but
yeah.
it didn't get coordinated. That was the problem.
Well, it was your I think your actions in the heat of fire, and like what I found admirable there was that you can't fake bravery under such circumstances. The courage is instinctual or it is not. It's not a rehearsed action, and so I just want to say that I think a lot of people admire your courage under fire there, and
Well,
yeah, so
thank you very
yeah,
much. I appreciate it. I didn't think of it. I just wanted to get up and I wanted to stand up. I wanted to let people know, I felt I was good when they were on top of me, covering me, actually, very much covering me, and very bravely. But I wanted to get up. I said, I want to get up. And they wanted, they have everything there. They wanted stretcher. I didn't like the stretcher. And I knew I was hit in the ear, but I knew I wasn't hit anywhere else. They felt I was hit someplace else
yeah,
because it was such a lot of blood, and they were sure that I was hit someplace else. And they were saying, "Sir, you were hit in more than the ear." I said, "Nope, I was hit in the ear. I want to get up. Let me get up." And so I got up, and the crowd didn't know what to think. I mean, this was so many people, and you could see they were confused. They didn't know what to think, and I wanted to let them know I was okay. It was very important for me to let them
yeah,
know that and they went wild. You've seen the after. They didn't go wild when I
Yeah,
got up because they didn't know was I alive. You really couldn't tell when I stood up before the hand, before the the fist in the air. Uh, they didn't know if I was alive. Nobody did. And when I put the fist up, they were just relieved and happy and thrilled, and the place went crazy. It was pretty amazing.
yeah.
It was a
Well,
terrible thing, but it
it
was
was
pretty amazing.
incredibly moving. Yeah. Um, well, and I mean, speaking of the sort of slide that got you to turn that saved your life really was the illegal immigration
Right.
slide. Maybe this
That's right.
maybe this is worth talking about that
It
since
was. It was.
that slide
You're
saved your
right.
life
No,
basically.
the illegal immigration saved my life. You're right, but I
I
had to
know
be at
that's
that
the.
exact angle.
I mean that's a great one. Saved by illegal
You know
immigration.
the incredible
100%.
thing though, when you talk about the odds, you had to be exactly at that angle. But the incredible
Yeah,
thing is that the chart I used it less than 20% of the time. It was just a moment.
yeah,
It's always on my left, never my right, and it's always at the end of the speech. So here
yeah.
we have it. It's on the right, not the left. It's at the beginning, not the end. And even the people that put it up, they were unprepared, and they did a great job. They got it up immediately, fortunately. But I looked to the right, and the bullet came whizzing by, hitting my ear. So it was amazing. But when you think of the odds of that, and
Yeah, yeah,
normally you wouldn't use it. Normally I wouldn't have the thing, and then it would
yeah.
have been a very different story. It's very much. I say an act of God. It's a miracle that it happened, and I'm
Sure.
honored by it. I'm honored by it.
Well, what were you about to say about illegal immigration before you were rudely interrupted with a
Well, I was
bullet?
going to say how good the numbers were. By the way, we're going back to Butler, and we're going to go
Great.
back in October. We're all set up, and the people are fantastic in Butler. It's a great area. Great, these are incredible people. Like the three that, in the case of Corey killed, and the other two, the families are. I got to know them a little bit, and the families are great. But we're going back to Butler, and I think I'll probably start by saying, as I was saying,
As you were
prior to
saying,
being so
so,
horribly interrupted.
yeah,
But
yeah. So rudely interrupted by an
yeah,
assassination
so it was.
attempt.
But no, but the chart,
Some people have no manners.
Elon, the chart was just a chart that in my last week we had the best illegal immigration numbers, meaning stopping. It was at the lowest. You've seen the chart. It's become quite a famous
Yeah,
chart,
yeah,
but that was the lowest
yeah.
point ever recorded. It was a really, I mean, I was very proud of those numbers. And then you see what happened with these people, Kamala and Joe. You see what happened. They just let it go. I had remain in Mexico policies. I had all these different policies that was so good. Uh, Guys like Tom Holman and Brandon Judd from Border Patrol. All these are all people that they've been on television. They says the best numbers we've ever had. We had so many different checks, catch and release in Mexico, not the United. We had catch and release in the United States. We had it in Mexico. We had so many things. We had things where if many people come in there, they have contagious diseases. We had everything passed. If you have a contagious disease, I'm sorry, but we cannot allow you into the country. So we were setting
Yeah,
literally records, and all I was doing is showing that, and I use it sometimes,
sure.
and in this case, I'm glad I used it. I can tell you that, but they were fantastic numbers. But I'm going to sleep with that chart always. I'll be sleeping with that chart. That chart was very important for a lot of reasons.
Well, I mean, would it be accurate to say that you're supportive of legal immigration, um, but we also need to shut down illegal immigration and especially unvetted illegal
Yes,
immigration because and that's not the same as saying that everyone who's an illegal immigrant is bad. In fact, I think most people who are illegal immigrants are actually good, but you can't tell the difference unless there's a solid vetting of who comes across the border. Does that accurately
100%.
represent your position?
I say it
Okay.
very simply. They have to come in legally. They have to be checked
Yeah.
because look, Kamala was the border czar. Now she's denying it. Everything that I do, she's
Yeah.
saying she was strong on the border. We're going to be strong. Well, she doesn't have to say it. She could close it up right now. They could do things right now. It's horrible. Uh, no tax on tips, and all of a sudden she's making a speech and saying there will be no tax on tips. I said that months ago. And by the way, they had just the opposite. They had not only tax on tips, but they hired 88,000 IRS agents, and many of them were assigned to go get waitresses and caddies and all of this on tips. They have a policy. They had a policy that they were really going to go after you and were really harassing people horribly. And then all of a sudden, for politics, she says, she comes out with what I said, which I think is terrible. And I think it's also hitting them very hard. These people are fake. Now they're also saying they did a good job on the border. We had the worst numbers in the history of the world, not of our country. There's never been a country in history that has had a catastrophe like this. We've had, I believe, and I think you believe this too, you hear 12
Yeah.
million, 13. I believe it's over 20 million people came into our country,
Yeah.
many coming from jails, from prisons, from mental institutions, or a bigger version of that is
Yeah.
insane asylums, and many are terrorists. And I'll tell you what, they're coming not just from South America, they're coming from Africa, they're coming from all over the world. They're coming from Asia, they're
Yeah.
coming from the Middle East, they're coming from countries that are uh, stupidly and horribly bombing Israel October 7th. They're coming from all over the world. And you look at, it's so sad October 7th because it should have never happened.
Yeah.
It's so sad when
Sure.
you look at Ukraine. It should have never happened. We have a defective
Yeah.
government. These are defective people, and they're not people that should be running it. But where you see it the best is the border, because you have millions of people coming in a month, and then she gets up and she tries to pretend like she's going to do something. She had 3.5 years. And by the way, they have another 5 months that they can do something, but they
Yeah.
won't do anything. It's all talk. She's
No.
incompetent and he's incompetent. And frankly, I think that she's more incompetent than he is. And that's saying something because he's not too good.
Yeah. No, I think it is essential to have a secure border. I mean, you're really not a country unless you have a
Correct.
secure border. And
And
uh,
secure elections,
you
too.
know, yeah, absolutely secure elections, and so it's just essential to have a real border, or we can't function as a country, and our service, our central services are being overwhelmed in a lot of cities, um, and as we were talking about earlier, I think having a legal immigration process that is smooth and efficient and done well, and speaking as someone who is a legal immigrant. And I think I mean, like one way to think of it is, who do you want on your team? Um, who do you want on Team America? And I think we want to just say, okay, we want to let in people who are gonna, be great contributors to our society and to our economy,
Right.
and and who do you want on the team? And it's not to say that, like in my opinion, actually, I'd say like probably most of the illegal immigrants actually are actually good, hardworking people. That's my opinion. But some are not, and you just have this sort of adverse selection process where, if somebody's if somebody's like a you know uh, has a career in theft or robbery, I don't understand what's taken them so long to get here, because we're such a target-rich environment. Um, I mean, why aren't more people who have a career in bad things coming here sooner? Because I mean, it's a piece of cake to go rob houses in LA or New York, compared to other parts of the world. And in a lot of places in America, if you try to stop the person who's robbing you, you'll be arrested.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's insane.
It's right. I mean, what's happening with crime, and our police are so good, but they're not allowed to do their job. But I have to tell you, Elon, I
They're
hate
not.
to say it because it's such a downer to say it. I hate to say it. I hate it. But uh, you have a lot of people that just shouldn't be. I think it's a much bigger number than you think. They're
I
allowing,
think you're
again,
right.
they're
Yeah.
allowing people from their jails. And if you were running one of these countries where they're coming from, you would have had all of them. As an example, Venezuela, their crime is down 72%. They're taking their drug dealers, they're taking, frankly, their prisoners, they're emptying out their prisons, they're taking their criminals, their murderers, their rapists, and they're
Yeah,
delivering them into
but
the.
that's what Castro did.
Yeah,
That
well, he did on a
he
much smaller scale.
yeah,
It was a much smaller
yeah,
scale. But this is a massive scale because this is being done worldwide. But here's what's happening: crime all over the world is down. And wait till you see the numbers that we have. This is migrant crime. This is crime that's going to be.
yeah,
And I saw it today in New York where somebody was knifed with raped the girlfriend of a man that stood there watching in New York in one of the shelters and started
sure,
pulling out the knives, and bad things happened today. But this is happening every day. These are rough people. These are people that are in jail for
yeah,
murder and all sorts of things, and they're releasing them into our country, and they're telling them, if you come back, we're going to kill you. We're going to give you the death penalty or kill you. So they don't want to come back. But these are rough people.
yeah,
These are criminals that make our criminals look like nice people, and it's horrible what they're doing. And she's in charge of it because now she's trying to say she
sure,
had nothing to do with it, and she's such a liar because she was called the border czar the first day, and it was on the headlines of every newspaper. She's the border czar, and she never even went there. She went to one location which had nothing to do with where the problem is. She went in and out, I
right,
guess, because she was getting a lot of pressure,
yeah,
but
yeah,
had nothing to do with the problem
yeah.
is. But she was
Well,
the
well,
border czar, and the people
yeah, yeah,
can't allow them to get away with their disinformation campaign. Now she's trying to say that she wasn't really involved, and the whole thing is horrible. She was totally in charge. She could have shut the border down without him. He didn't know what he was doing anyway, so he wouldn't have even known
yeah,
what happened. You could shut the border down; he wouldn't
yeah,
even know the difference. But uh, the fact is that she was border czar. But if you don't have to call her
yes.
that, the fact is you could just call her. She was in charge of the border, and the border was the worst
Right.
ever.
It's simply not working.
No,
It's
it's
I mean
horrible.
whether it's a question of intention or competence, either way, we don't have a secure border, and we have people streaming over like it looks like a World War Z zombie apocalypse at times. And sometimes you got to sort of wonder, like, is it real or not? So because you see things, you're like, is it real? So I went to the border at Eagle Pass, and I saw for myself in Texas, and I was like, okay, it's real. I'm like seeing this in real time. I actually posted the video like just live. I just flew there one day and just to see, hey, is this made up or real? And I'm just seeing people stream across the border, and I have to say, at least the people that I saw did not look friendly.
These
So
these are
people
people.
can look at my video and say, hey,
Yeah.
does these people look friendly? I don't look super friendly. So,
These are people that
um,
Elon would not be the same man if he had to walk across the street and look these people in the eye. These are rough people. These are really rough people coming across. And I know rough people. And these are people that we don't want in our country. And the caravans are coming in and they're putting and who's doing this are the heads of the countries. And you would be doing
yeah,
it, and so would I. And everyone would say, oh, what a terrible thing to say. The fact is, it's brilliant for them because they're taking all of their bad people, really bad people. And I hate to say this, the reason the numbers are much bigger than you would think is they're also taking their non-productive people. Now, these aren't people that will kill you. We have enough of them, but these are people that are non-productive. They are just not productive. I mean, for whatever reason, they're not
yeah, yeah,
workers or they don't want to work or whatever. And these countries are getting rid of non-productive people in the caravans in many cases, and they're also getting rid of their murderers and their drug dealers and the people that are
yeah,
really brutal people. And they're coming into our country
yeah,
at levels that have never been seen before. And I saw an ad just before I got on the air. I'm walking over here, and I saw an ad by Kamala saying how she is going to provide border security. Where has she been for 3.5 years? For 3.5 years,
yeah. No, no.
we have 20 million people
I
poured
think is
in. It's a terrible
Yeah, I
thing.
think frankly, I think this is a fundamental existential issue for the United States. And if we have another 4 more years of open borders, and it's going to be even worse with another 4 more years, it's going to be even worse than it's been for the past, 3.5 years. I'm not sure we've got a country
You don't have
left
a country
at that
left.
point.
Elon, if they get in, you will have 50 to 60 million people from all over the world, not South America only. You know, we think of South America, we think of Honduras and El Salvador, Guatemala, and Mexico, you know, the four. But it's not that. It's everywhere. They're coming in from
Yeah,
everywhere. And I had to stay in
yeah. I think
Mexico.
this is a super important
Yeah.
point. Like people, it's like basically when I went down there, I was like, well, where are people from? It's like almost no one was from Mexico. To be
No,
clear,
Mexico
it's
less
it's just it's just
less
it's
than
just the
the others.
border. It's just the border with Mexico. But the people coming in, it's Earth, the rest of Earth, and America is only about 4 or 5% of the population of Earth. It would only take a few percent of the rest of Earth to overwhelm everything in the
We're
U.S.
already
So
overwhelmed, Elon. We're overwhelmed. You had to see the news tonight about New York. New York, and I love that place, and what they're doing to it is horrible, what they're doing to it. And all the courts do is they
yeah,
try and focus on Trump. Okay, then let's focus on Trump, who did nothing wrong. I complain about a rigged election. Elon, what's happened is unbelievable. You have from Africa, from the Congo, they're coming from the Congo, and 22 people came in from the Congo recently, and they're murderers, and they're dropped. They drop them. They take them out of jails, which is very expensive, you know, to maintain the jails. Although they don't do too much maintaining, I can tell you. But they take them out of jails, prisons. They take them out, and they bring them to the United States. They deposit them in the United States and say, "Don't ever come back, or you're going to be executed." And they don't want to come back, but they won't come back.
sure.
But they're coming from Africa. They're coming from Asia. They're coming from the Middle East. They're coming from South
Well,
America.
just
They're
Earth,
coming from
rest of Earth,
everywhere.
basically.
And there are a lot of
Yeah,
really
everywhere on
bad
Earth.
ones.
It's just an everywhere on Earth thing, and it's just not possible for the United States to absorb everyone from Earth, or even a few percent of the rest of Earth. It's just not possible.
Well,
So
Elon, we're going to have
that's
just to
yeah.
finish this up. We're going to have the largest deportation in history of this country, and we have no choice. Otherwise, we're going to have a country. What they've done to our country. Think of it, with in Venezuela and in some of these other countries, crime is down 50, 60, 70, 80%. And you would be the same. You would have.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
tell you what. Venezuela has not gotten rid of all of them. They've gotten rid of about 70% of their really bad people. Their jails are about 50% uh, put into the United States. Same with other countries. Some
sure.
are at 30%, some are at 50%. They're all different. But the bottom line is they're all going to be at 100%. Why wouldn't you put 100% of it?
Yeah,
And they're doing it right now while this third-rate phony candidate. Don't forget, I beat Biden. He failed in the debate miserably. And, some people said, oh, gee, it's too bad. It's too bad he did so badly, or I did well in the debate. The first night they said, wow. One of the people at CNN said that was the greatest debate performance I've ever witnessed. And then 2 days later, they didn't talk about that. They just said he was bad. But that's okay. That's the way I get treated. And I don't mind that at all. What I can tell you is this: we cannot have a Democrat. We cannot have her. She's incompetent. She's as bad as Biden in a
it's
different. Look,
yeah.
she hasn't done an
I mean,
interview since this
yeah,
whole scam started.
well,
And say what you want. This
yeah,
was a coup. This was a coup of a president of the United States. He didn't want to leave, and they said we can do it the nice
yeah.
way or we can do it the
No,
hard way.
yeah. No, I mean, they just took him out back behind the shed and basically shot him.
What they did
Biden.
with this guy,
So
and I'm no
yeah.
fan of his, and he was a horrible president, the worst president in history. And one of the reasons he was so bad, first of all, the Israeli attack would have never happened. Russia would never have attacked Ukraine, and we'd have no inflation. And we wouldn't have had the Afghanistan mess, if you think of it,
Well,
and we wouldn't have had
yeah.
Afghanistan. But we think of it,
Well, yeah.
you take a few of those events away, and we have a different world. We would also
Well,
have
no,
no
no, you're yeah.
inflation was caused by oil.
Yeah, no, no. I think you're making an excellent point here, which is that when other countries can, that are, are thinking about invading or doing bad things, when they're thinking about that, they're thinking about, okay, what's the American president going to do, and do they fear the American president, or is there someone they do not respect or and do not fear? And I think they would they rightfully be. I mean, look at that the footage with the assassination. They're like, okay, uh, President Trump is like, don't mess with me. I mean, Like, but whereas I think people are not going to be, and they obviously have not been at all intimidated by Biden, and they certainly will not be intimidated by Kamala. And you have to really think of that in the context of global security. That if the American president is someone that, like, evil dictators are scared of, that makes a huge difference to the security of the world.
So I had a good relationship with Putin, despite the Russia hoax that lasted for over 2 years. Just a hoax created by Hillary Clinton and Adam Shifty Schiff, some just bad people, just sick people, frankly. I mean, Schiff is a sick person. He's going to end up probably being a senator. It's hard to believe. The whole thing is hard to believe. But, they put our country in danger with that stuff, too. They actually, when they make up stories, and you have to fight your way out of it for a long time. But I know Putin very well. I got along with him very well. He respected me, and it's just one of those things. And we would talk a lot about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye. But I said, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. I shut down Nord Stream 2. That was the big oil pipeline, the biggest, I think, the biggest pipeline in the world going all over Europe. I shut it down. Biden came, and then they say,
Yeah.
I loved Russia. I was a friend of Putin, and I loved Russia. No, he actually said to me one time, he said, if you're my friend, I'd hate to see you as an enemy. I shut down his pipeline, the biggest pipeline. They were looking at that to
Yeah.
fund, and this pathetic president gets in there, and the first thing he did, one of the early things he did, is he shut down Keystone XL pipeline, which is our pipeline that would have employed 48,000 people, pipeline workers, shuts it down. That was, a massive job that Obama refused to allow.
Yeah.
I allowed it in my first week because it was jobs and it moved oil. And by the way, in a much more environmentally friendly way. It's underground. It's not a truck that catches on fire or a train that catches on fire. But think of it. He shut down the XL pipeline, the Keystone XL pipeline. He
Yeah.
shuts that down and he approves the Russian pipeline,
Yeah, it doesn't make any
right?
sense. It's inconsistent. Certainly but I mean, I think it's just worth emphasizing, to listeners, that the immense importance of whether the United States president is intimidating or not intimidating, and how much that matters to global security, because there's some real tough characters out there, and if they don't think the American president is tough, they will do what they want to
I
do.
know every one of
And
them.
that puts it puts the whole
Yeah.
world in danger.
Elon, I know every one
It's
of
a
them,
big
and I know
deal.
them well. I know
Yeah.
Putin. I know President Xi. I know Kim Jong Un of North Korea. I know every one of them. And let me tell you, people will say, "Oh, this is terrible." He said, "I'm not saying anything good or bad. They're at the top of their game. They're tough. They're smart. They're vicious, and they're going to protect their country. Whether they love their country, they probably do. It's just a different form of love, but they're going to protect their country. But these are
Yeah.
tough people at the top of their game. And when they see a Kamala or when they see Biden, Sleepy Joe, they can't even
Yeah.
believe it. They can't believe this happened. All the stuff that you're seeing now, all the horror that you look at Israel, they're all waiting for an attack from Iran. Iran would not be attacking, believe me. When I was there, and I say it with respect because I think we would have been good with Iran. I don't want to do anything bad to Iran, but they knew not to mess around. Iran was broke because I told China, if you buy from Iran oil, it's all about the oil. That's where the money is. But if you buy oil from Iran, you're not going to do any business with the United States. And I meant it. And they said, we'll
Yeah.
pass.
Yeah.
They didn't buy oil. Other countries, likewise.
Sure.
You want to buy, you're not doing business with the United States. And they were at a point where they had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for any of these instruments of terror. And it was amazing. In fact, there were articles when I was leaving, which is hard to believe, actually, especially when you look at what's happened to our country. Our country is so bad right now. It's such a different place. We were respected. Think of it. 4 years ago, we were so respected to a point where when I said don't buy oil, they didn't buy oil, but they had no
Yeah.
money,
Yeah.
and Israel would have never been attacked. Zero chance. And again, I said to Vladimir Putin, I said, don't do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it, it's going to be a bad day. You cannot do it. And I told him things that what I do, and he said, no way. And I said, way. And it's the last time we ever had the conversation. he would never have done. I got along well with him. I hope to get along well with him again. Getting along well with them is a good thing, not a bad thing. I got along well with Kim
Yeah.
Jong Un when I met with President Obama just before entering. It's a sort of a ritual. And I sat down with him and we talked. It was supposed to be for a very short period of time. It turned out to be a long period of time. I said, "What's the biggest problem?" He said, "North Korea." I had that problem worked out very quickly. It was nasty at the beginning with Rocket Man and all the different things,
Yeah.
but all of a sudden I got a call. Oh,
Those were some epic tweets, by the way.
yeah, they
Those
were
were
no,
like
they were epic.
absolutely.
Everything he said that he has a red button on his desk. I said, I have a red button on my desk too, but my red button is much bigger, and my red button works. And then I called him Little
Yeah.
Rocket Man, of Little Rocket Man. Anyway, here's the bottom line. All of a sudden I got a call from him and they said they want to meet. They want to meet me. And we met,
Yeah.
as you remember, we met in Singapore. We met also in Vietnam. And I got along with them great. We were
Yeah.
in no danger.
It,
But
yeah.
President Obama,
It's
President
because
Obama thought
they
we were going to
respond.
end up in
Yeah.
a nuclear war with him. And let me tell you, he's
Yeah.
got a
It's not
lot of
true.
nuclear
Yeah,
stuff too. He's
exactly.
got plenty of nuclear.
It's
He can do plenty of damage.
it's
So,
yes. I mean, it's because I mean, people like Kim Jong Un. They respond to
yeah.
strength, not weakness.
Well,
And
he and I got it.
if you
He and I
project
had a good
strength,
relationship.
you're good.
Remember, I
Yeah.
remember I met him and we walked onto his land. Nobody ever walked onto his land before. I walked onto. I wouldn't say.
Yeah.
Let's
That
bring
was
up
cool.
Secret Service again. I wouldn't say they were thrilled when I did that. I walked onto his land, and it was an amazing period. But we were not in danger with him because of me. I always
Yeah.
say that we have enemies on the outside and we have enemies on the inside. We have some really bad people in our government and people that are and controlling of the people. I mean, I'd mention names, but I really don't want to give them the credit. But we have some really bad, and I say they're more dangerous than Russia and China. If you have a smart president, a president that gets it, we are not in danger from those countries because they need us and they need our help. I mean, we forced Obama, if you think about it, Obama and Biden and Bush, to a certain extent, in all fairness, forced Russia and China together. And if you're a history student, the first thing you learn is you cannot let Russia and China align. But then they also got, if you take a look, Iran, and they have North Korea. That's, they call it the axis of evil. In the old days, you had the axis of evil. Here we have a modern day axis of evil. These are powerful countries, very heavy nuclear, which is the biggest threat.
Yeah.
The biggest threat is not global warming, where the ocean's going to rise one eighth of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest threat is not that. The biggest threat is nuclear warming, because we have 5 countries
Well.
now that
Yeah.
have significant nuclear power, and we have to not allow anything to happen with stupid people like Biden. Biden did something with Russia. There was no chance of him ever going in. And when I left, and then after I left, they started forming big armies on the border with Ukraine, right? And I looked at that, and I thought he was doing that because Putin's a good negotiator. I thought he was doing that to negotiate. But then Biden started saying such stupid things. For instance, he said that it can be a NATO country. Now, Russia, for as long as there's been NATO, has said we're never going to agree to that. And we go right up front and say that. And we did things and said things through this president with a low IQ, very low IQ. He had a low IQ 30 years ago, by the way, but now he might not even have a IQ at all. There's nothing on the board that goes this low. He said things that were so stupid that war had zero chance of happening if I were there. Zero chance. He was saying everything
Yeah.
the opposite. Everything the opposite. And it's so sad because many more people have been killed in Ukraine than you read about. You don't read about how bloody it is and how disaster.
Sure.
Hey, look, just in the 2 armies, you lost 500,000 people. And
Yeah.
Ukraine's having a hard time. Ukraine, I don't know if you saw
Yeah.
the article recently, and it's true. You don't hear the true story, but if you think about it, Russia's gone. Russia defeated Germany with us, and they defeated Napoleon. They've been around a long time. They're a big fighting
Yeah.
force,
Sure.
and it's
Of course.
very unfair. And Ukraine now doesn't have enough men They're now using young men and very old men to fight, and we're in a very bad position. And I'm not going to blame exclusively, but I can tell you, I could have stopped that, and a smart president could have stopped that. It wouldn't have happened. But we had a
Yeah,
man that actually made it. It made it more prevalent. It was so bad. The words that he was using, the stupid threats coming from a stupid face that he was using. I said, this guy's going to cause us a war. He's going to cause us. And let me tell you,
yeah,
it can
yeah,
lead to World War III. That can lead to World War III. The Middle East can lead to. We have numerous places that could end up in a
yeah.
World War III right now for no reason
No,
whatsoever.
I think you're right. I think people underrate the risk of World War III, and it's just when you're looking at the risk of global thermonuclear warfare, it's game over for humanity, and that's it's something that people have, I think, after the end of the Cold War, people have become complacent about, but they actually have forgotten that there are currently a lot of nuclear missiles that have targeting parameters for the United States from other
100%.
countries.
And one of the things
And
we're going to do is
it's
we're going to
yeah,
build an iron dome over us. Israel has it. We're going to have the best iron dome in the world. We need it, and we're going to make it all in the United States. But we're going to have protection, because it just takes one maniac to start something. We're going to have protection, and we're going to have. Why shouldn't we have an iron dome? Israel has one. Some other places
yeah,
have one that nobody even knows about, frankly. But Israel has it. We're going to have an iron dome. But with all of that being said, to me that's so important, the most important. But with all of that being said, the election's coming up, and the people want to hear about the economy and the fact that they
absolutely, sure.
can't buy groceries because they don't have enough money to buy groceries. The inflation has killed them. Food prices are up 50, 60, even 100% in some cases. And this stupid administration allowed this to happen. And it's a shame. And that's the thing that people most care about, in my opinion. They care about the border a lot. And we discussed the border at great length. It's nice to have a
Yeah, yeah.
forum like this where I can discuss something at length. And by the way, you think Biden could do this interview? Do you think that Kamala could do this interview? They would take a pass on
No, they
you.
could not.
So they don't need Elon. They don't need Elon screaming out questions. It's pretty sad when you think that somebody that does this for a living can't answer a question or is afraid to do an interview. And in her case, with a very friendly interview, she's got all friendly interviewers. It's pretty sad.
Yes,
But the
absolutely.
big thing now is the
Well,
economy, Elon.
yeah,
And as much as
yeah,
I mean, I view nuclear as the single most important thing, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't understand that. But it doesn't have to. If I understand it, that's all you need. Because if I was president, you're not going to have that kind of a problem. But the thing that they really is making them angry is what Kamala and Biden have allowed to happen to the economy. It's a disaster with inflation. The inflation, it
yeah,
doesn't matter what you make. The inflation has eaten you alive. If you're a worker or if you're just a middle income person, you can't afford. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, people were saving a lot of money. Today, they're using
yeah.
all their money and borrowing money just to live. It's a horrible thing
Right.
that's happening, and we'll end that
Well, I think
quickly.
a lot of yeah, a lot of people just don't understand where inflation comes from. Inflation comes from government overspending because the checks never bounce when it's written by the government. So if the government spends far more than it brings in, that increases the money supply, and if the money supply increases faster than the rate of goods and services,
That's right.
that's inflation. Um, so really, we need to have we need to reduce our government spending, and we need to re-examine. I think we need like a government efficiency commission to say like, hey, where are we spending money that's sensible? Where is it not
Right.
sensible? And we need to live within our means. We're currently adding, I think, $1 trillion to the deficit every
That's
roughly
right.
every 100 days.
That's right.
And the interest payments on the national debt have now exceed the defense budget. It's on the order of $1 trillion,
It's interest.
and it keeps
Yeah, I
growing.
rebuilt our military, largely rebuilt our military, did a great job on it, which was so important. We had jets, we had fighters that were, and bombers that were 70 years old. And we did a great job in that. Then by the way, then we gave 85 billion of it back to Afghanistan, if you can believe it. We gave them 85 billion. They're one of the largest sellers
Yeah.
of military equipment in the world. They're selling what we gave them. That was one of the most embarrassing days in the history of our country. But if you think about let's go back to the economy. We have to bring energy
Yeah.
prices down. Energy started at the price of gasoline. Now your cars don't require too much gasoline, so you have a good, and you do make a great product. I have to say, I have to be honest with you.
Thank
That
you.
doesn't mean everybody should have an electric car, but these are minor details. But your product is incredible. But the
Thank you.
gasoline, Elon, is the cost of energy. Not only gasoline, it's the cost of heating your house and cooling your house. That has
Sure.
to come down. It's gone up 100%, 150, and 200%, and that has to come down. When that comes down, and we're going to
Yeah.
drill, baby, drill. They stopped drilling, and then they went back to drilling because they went back to the Trump policy. But if they won the day after they get into office, this country will go out of business because they're going to go to an energy policy that's not sustainable. Wind and different things. You're not going to have anything.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big fan of the AI, and I have to say
Yeah.
that AI, and this is shocking to me, but AI requires twice the energy that the country already produces for everything. So you're going to have to build. We're going to have to build a lot of energy if our country will be competitive with China, because that's our primary competitor for this on the AI. You're going
Sure.
to need a lot of
Well, I mean,
electricity. You're going to need tremendous
yeah.
electricity, like almost double what we produce now for the whole country, if you can believe it.
Sure. Well, just going, back to this, like this basic thing, which that people try to make it sound complicated, but it's not. But inflation is caused by government
Right.
overspending. Would you agree that we need to take a look at government
Yes.
spending and have perhaps a government efficiency commission that just tries to make the spending sensible and so the country lives within its means, just like a
The
person does.
waste is incredible, and nobody
It is.
negotiates prices. You used to have a lot of people making jets, and you end up with two companies, and they'll probably try and merge at some point. I mean, I went through it like Air Force, just a thing like Air Force One. One of the first documents they asked me to sign, a general said, "Sir, would you please sign this document?" And what is it? Air Force One. That's with Boeing, which is basically two planes, two 747s, and the price was
Yeah.
$5.7 billion for two planes. Now they're
Wow.
highly sophisticated.
That's
They're
insane.
even nicer than your plane, okay? But much more sophisticated. They're very. I won't say what's on it, but they got a lot of stuff on it. Anyway, but it's
Sure.
5.7. I
That's a crazy
It's a
number.
crazy number, but I said I'm not going to pay 5.7. I'm not going to do it. I said, who made the deal? Obama and his people. I said, well, then I know the deal's no good. I'm not going to do it. And over a course of about 4 weeks, by my saying I'm not going to do it, I got the price reduced by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane, other than we had a nicer paint job, if you want to know the truth. But for the exact same plane, I saved one. And I said to Boeing, man, you guys must make a lot of money if you can reduce the price by that. But now what I do hear is that they're going back to the Biden administration and wanting big cost overruns, because they see these dopey suckers in there, and they'll end up getting some of the money back. But I shaved it by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane, and you can now take that and multiply that out times thousands of other
Exactly.
items, and
Multiply it by
yeah,
a
the
zillion,
numbers are
and yeah, yeah.
astronomical. I agree with you.
Well, I mean, if so, I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things and just ensures that the taxpayer money, the taxpayers' hard-earned money, is spent in a good way. I'd be happy to help out on such a commission
I'd love
if
it.
it were formed.
Well, you're the greatest cutter. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, "You want to quit?" They go on
Yeah.
strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike, and you say, "That's okay. You're all gone. You're all gone." So every one of you is gone, and you are the greatest. You would be very good. Oh, you would love it. But if you look at Argentina.
Well, I'd be happy to
Yeah, by
help
the way,
out.
congratulations. I
Yeah.
just looked at the number of people that are listening to you and I chat. We'll call it a chat. But
Yeah.
congratulations. This is very good. I mean, it's great. And you're an interesting character. The new head of a place called Argentina, and he's a big,
Malay's
he's
awesome.
he's great. And
Yeah.
he's a big MAGA fan, that he ran on MAGA. And he took it to an extreme too. He ran on MAGA, and I hear he's doing really a terrific job. It's called Make Argentina Great Again. It worked out perfectly. He came in, he bought a lot of hats, he brought over, but he's doing a big job. He really cut. And I'm hearing
Yeah.
they're starting to do pretty well. Inflation's getting down. You know, they had like
Yes, exactly.
2,000%. And they had inflation like not normal inflation. They had the real deal. But we're going to
Yeah.
have that pretty soon. We have, I think we
Yeah.
have the worst inflation we've had in 100 years. They say it's 48 years. I don't believe it. I think we have the worst. They
Yeah.
don't include a lot of the items that should be included, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's just from government overspending and not spending taxpayer money
Yeah,
effectively, and having just like so many departments you can't even name them all, and what Millet is doing is he's cutting government spending, he's simplifying things, he's having putting in regulations that make sense, and I and we're Argentina overnight is experiencing a giant improvement
that's
in
right.
prosperity, but it's also a lesson for the United States, which is that um, Argentina used to be one of the most prosperous countries in the world. Um,
Right.
in the like in the 30s, 40s, and because of bad government policy, it ruined the country. And if you take Venezuela, for example, Venezuela should be incredibly prosperous. They have phenomenal reserves of everything, oil, everything, and it should be prosperous. But if the government's wrong, it impoverishes the people. And so I think we should not be complacent in the United States in thinking that and taking our prosperity for granted, because if with bad government policy, we can run the country into the ground, and that's just something people should bear in mind. Don't take prosperity for granted.
Well, think of education. So we're ranked at the bottom of every list of the top 40. We're ranked number 40, number 38. Uh, Norway, Switzerland, Sweden, different countries are ranked good. Actually, China's pretty close to the top. They're a top 6 or 7, but we're ranked at the bottom, almost at the bottom, 38, 39, 40. In other words, horrible. And yet we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world. So we spend more. And what I'm going to do, one of the first acts, and this is where I need an Elon Musk, I need somebody that has a lot of strength and courage and smarts. I want to close up Department of Education, move education back to the states,
Yeah,
where states like Iowa, where states like Idaho, not every state will do great because states that basically aren't doing good now. You look at Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. He's terrible. He does a terrible job. So he's not going to do great with education. But of the
yeah,
50, I would bet that 35 would do great, and 15 of
yeah,
them, or 20 of them will be as good as Norway. Norway is considered great. You can name them. I mean, they're so good. Some of
yeah,
these countries are so good. But if you go into some of these really well-run states, we have states that don't know what debt is. We have states that have low taxes, no debt, everybody working. They're really well run,
sure,
and maybe they have certain advantages in terms of location, in terms of the land or the sun, and the water and the whole thing. There are a lot of advantages that some people have. But if you moved education back to the 50, you'll have some that won't do well, but they'll actually be forced to do better because it'll be a pretty bad situation.
yeah.
But if you think
Well,
about it,
yeah,
you'll have some
yeah,
of
yeah,
these states. I'll bet you'd have 30, 35 states. It'll be much better. And you know what it'll cost? Less than
yeah,
half what it is in Washington. And
yeah.
these people don't care
Well,
about the
yeah.
students in these, faraway states. And it'd
Well,
be unbelievable.
yeah. I think you're making a good point in that if the states have to if each individual if each state has to compete against other states, then people will
That's
naturally
right.
move to states where it's better.
Well, like
Um,
California, as we said, it's a badly run state. I could go through. I got so many friends that are in those states, even if they're Democrats. I hate to mention certain states, but Illinois is badly run with Pritzker. He's a real loser. But
yeah,
but some of these places are just badly run. But it's almost going to force them to run better, and they won't do a good at initially. But you're not going to do worse than you're doing right now. And I would say that
yeah,
you would cut your cost by 50 or 60%. And you'd have a little
Yeah, yeah,
monitor. You want to make sure they're teaching English as an example. Give us a
yeah.
little English, right?
Sure, yeah.
Right?
No, but I mean, to what some of these governors are doing so badly. I mean, they got so many people moving out of their state. They should get U-Haul Salesman of the Year award because they're driving so much U-Haul
It's
sales.
actually
It's just
amazing.
people moving out.
Isn't it amazing to you as a businessman that they can even survive? Like Illinois, so many people are leaving, and you wonder, how do they survive? I mean, how do they survive? Uh, I saw where you left California and you moved to Texas. Texas does a great job. But, I
Yeah,
mean, I just wonder, how do these states survive when big businesses, a big oil company just left California, as you know, and they moved to Texas. How do these big states survive when they lose so many businesses and their taxes are already really high? The taxes are among the highest
yeah.
taxes. You almost wonder, how do they continue on? And in many cases, the governors don't do a good job in their crime-ridden places. You wonder, how do they continue to just go on? It's
Well,
not a good
I think there's.
situation.
I mean, I think the only thing that's going to force some of these states to change is if they risk bankruptcy and they're not getting bailed out by the federal
Right,
government.
right. Well, you're
That's
gonna
that's
you're
the
gonna
only thing
have
that's going to
that.
get them to change.
You remember the
Yeah,
area in California where they had that, where I guess somebody had sticky fingers and they stole a lot of money, and they went into a form of chapter, and it was very
yeah,
nasty for
yeah.
a period of time. But now it's probably the most popular place in all of California. So at some point, something like that may have to happen. But the problem is, you can't penalize people that loan money to the state when you have incompetent people like a Pritzker. Look, the family didn't want him in the family business, and then he ends up being governor of Illinois. So what is he going to be? Is he going to be a great governor? And you have people. I could name every one of them. I got to know every one of
Yep.
these, and some are very good, and some are just horrible.
Well, I think that, I mean, the larger point here, too, as you're saying, like a lot of people are concerned about the economy, a lot of people are concerned about inflation, and inflation is effectively a tax on people that save money,
Yeah,
and for people that are working day to day, it's just a form of taxation. And if we can solve the government spending problem, we'll solve the inflation problem, which means people will have a better standard of living, and
yeah.
that's a really big
Well, the
deal.
people that got hurt
Um,
worst are the people that did it the way they were taught to do it all through, their younger life and their young life and their whole life. The people that saved money and then they got no interest on their money and inflation destroyed them. And frankly, they were almost better off if they didn't do anything like that. I mean, those people have been absolutely decimated, and we're going to bring those people back and help those people. We've got to get the prices down. When I look at bacon costing 4 or 5 times more than it did a few years ago,
sure.
when you look at some of the food products in grocery stores, people go, they can't believe it. They used to be able to buy a whole cart, and today, a lot of people just don't have the money. They go in and they can't buy anything. They look at
Yeah,
it's
it's.
sticker
I
shock.
think
They
it.
call it
Yeah,
sticker shock, right?
I think it really just comes, like I said, I think it just comes down to really, I guess, two things, which is that if you solve government overspending, you solve inflation, which improves living
Right.
standards of the average person, and then if you deregulate, like have sensible regulations, so because a lot of the regulations are nonsensical and cause the cost to be extreme for no reason, but unless you've got effective deregulation. Like Reagan did a great job on deregulation in the 80s, but it's been 40 years since we had
That's right.
anyone really. I mean, during your administration, we made some progress, but I think uh, there's opportunity to make, I think, radical progress with sensible regulation.
Yeah.
And if
Well,
it was
Elon, we
those two things, yeah, those are the big
yeah, we
deals.
set a record. We did more deregulation and more restrictions on all of the different businesses than any other president. Remember, I had the rule for everyone we put in, you have to get rid of 10 or 12. And we did
Yeah,
radical cuts on all of that, and a lot of that's being put back by this administration. And we did radical cuts on things that weren't necessary. But we were all set. We had the best economy ever, maybe in the world. And then what happened is COVID came in, and we had to focus on that, and nobody knew what it was. And I always say I got good marks on economy, good marks on military. We knocked out ISIS. We did so many different things. We rebuilt. But I never got the credit that we really deserved on what we did with COVID. We never got the credit, but we were. If had that not happened, a gift from China, from Wuhan, came in from Wuhan, the Wuhan labs, and I always said it, and it turned out to be right. But
Yeah.
had that not happened, we were set to start reducing debt. We were going to reduce taxes further. I gave the largest tax cuts, and we were going to reduce taxes still further for middle income people, not only businesses. But we did it for
Sure.
businesses because they're the ones that's why we had the great job numbers. But we were set to really start reducing debt. And, we're sitting on the biggest pile of liquid gold anywhere in the world, bigger than Saudi Arabia, bigger than Russia. And we were going to drill and we were going to make so much money. We were going to supply Europe with oil. I had stopped the Russian pipeline and we were going to supply them with oil and gas. We were going to make a fortune. And then the COVID came in, and we really had to divert. Then what happened is when they came in, we kept a lot of businesses alive. If I didn't do what we did, we would have had a 1929 type depression. But the problem is when Biden came in, he got trillions of dollars and just started spending it stupidly. You didn't need it anymore. We got over that bad period where everybody was dying and feeling, it was just not a good period. Interestingly, during his administration, many more people died during his administration of COVID than during my administration, and we really got the brunt of it. But people don't realize more people died during his administration than ours. But it diverted us from doing what I wanted to do. But we had the greatest for almost 3 years. We had the
Yeah.
great, and you know that probably better than anybody. So many of your friends said to me, the best years we've ever had in business were during the Trump years, and also said that African American, Hispanic American were so incredible. They were having the best Asian American women, men, young people without a diploma, young people that graduated from the best colleges, from MIT, from the Wharton School, from all of the great colleges, Harvard. They were doing better, and people without a diploma were doing better, and everybody was happy. And then COVID came, and
Sure.
we had the problem is they spent trillions and trillions of dollars. They wasted. They shouldn't have taken any money, and we wouldn't be having inflation right now, which is killing our country.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, I should probably say something about like maybe my views on climate change
Yeah,
and oil and gas, because I think I'm probably different from what most people would assume. Because my views are actually pretty, I think, moderate in this regard, which is that I don't think we should vilify the oil and gas industry and the people that have worked very hard in those industries to provide the necessary energy to support the economy. And if we were to stop using oil and gas right now, we would all be starving, and the economy would collapse. So I don't think it's right to sort of vilify the oil and gas industry, and the world has a certain demand for oil and gas, and it's probably better if the United States provides that than some other
sure.
countries, and it would help with prosperity in the U.S. And at the same time, obviously, my view is like we do over time want to move to a sustainable energy economy because eventually you do run out of. I mean, you run out of oil and gas. It's not infinite. Um, and there is some risk. I think the risk is not as high as a lot of people say it is with respect to global warming. But I think if you just keep increasing the parts per million in the atmosphere long enough, eventually it actually simply gets uncomfortable to breathe. People don't realize this. If you go past 1,000 parts per million of CO2, you start getting headaches and nausea. And so we're now in the sort of 400 range. We're adding, I think, about roughly 2 parts per million per year. So I mean, it still gives us. So what it means is like we still have quite a bit of time, but so there's not like we don't need to rush, and we don't need to like stop farmers from farming or you know uh, prevent people from having steaks or
Right,
basic stuff like
right.
that. Like you can leave the farmers alone,
I agree.
in
How
my opinion.
crazy is that where
I mean,
you have farmers that are not allowed to farm anymore and have to get rid of their cattle and the whole world is
yeah,
a
that's
little
silly.
crazy. But it's largely taken its lead from us. I just say though, I've heard in terms of the fossil fuel, because even to create your electric car and create the electricity needed for the electric car. Fossil fuel is what really creates that at the generating plants. And, so you sort of can't get away from it at this moment. I mean, someday you might be able to, but I do hear we have anywhere from 100 to 500 years left. Much of it hasn't even been found yet.
Yeah.
But there are tremendous, like Anwar. I got Anwar in Alaska approved. Ronald Reagan couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. Everybody tried. Nobody could do it. I got it approved. The first thing that Biden did was unimprove to get rid of it. He ended
Yeah.
it. His secretary went in and she ended it. And what a disgrace. That's Anwar. That's bigger, or they think it could be bigger than Saudi Arabia in Alaska. Could be bigger than Saudi Arabia. But they went in and they terminated it. And I'll get it going very quickly, because not only is it big for Alaska, I mean, you talk about economic development, that for the United States, I mean, that is, they say bigger than Saudi Arabia or the same size, and pure,
Yeah.
really good stuff. And, they end it. So I think we have, perhaps hundreds of years left. Nobody really knows. But during that
Yeah.
during that
I mean,
time,
my
something will
estimate.
come around that will be
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and my estimate would be, a little more uh, aggressive than that, but it's not the sort of like we're all going to die in 5 years stuff. That's obviously BS. Um, but I mean, my view is like if you just look at sort of the parts per million that increments every year, you get sort of 2 or 3 parts per million every year of CO2. Uh, y- I mean, I think some of that it's problematic if it accelerates, if you start going from two or
Right.
three to say 5, and then there may be some situations where you get just a step change increase in the CO2.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and I think we don't want to get too close to 1,000 ppm, because like that's actually makes it uncomfortable to breathe. Like just existing in 1,000 ppm CO2 is uncomfortable. That's like that's considered like an industrial hazard.
Right.
Just so it's that's actually, you start getting headaches and stuff. So it's even without global warming, it's not comfortable to live with. So you don't want to get too close to that. But I mean, I think we've got. I think we want to just move over, and like, and if I don't know, 50 to 100 years from now, we're I don't know, mostly sustainable. I think that'll probably be okay. Um, so it's not like the house is on fire immediately, but I think it is something we need to move towards. And on on balance, it's probably better to move there faster than slower. But like I said, without vilifying the oil and gas industry, and without causing hardship in the short term. I think this can be done um, without, but people can still have, a stake, and they can still drive gasoline
Sure.
cars, and it's okay. It's like it's not. I don't think we should vilify people for it, but I think we should just generally lean in the direction of sustainability. And I actually think solar is going to be a majority of Earth's energy generation in the future, and it's certainly trending that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get the solar power, combine that with batteries, so because obviously the sun doesn't shine at night, and then you use that to charge the electric cars, and you have a long-term sustainable solution. And that's what Tesla's trying to move things towards, and I think we've made a lot of progress in that regard. But when you look at our cars, we don't believe that environmentalism, that caring about the environment should mean that you have to suffer. So we make sure that our cars are beautiful, that they drive well, that they're fast, they're sexy. I mean, they're cool. In fact, literally, I made this sexy joke: Model S, Model 3, Model X, and Y spells out sexy. It's probably the most expensive joke out
Right.
there. Um, but I don't know, I like cheesy humor, So, um, but I'm a big fan of, like, let's have an inspiring future, and
Yeah.
let's work towards a better future, and we can do so without demonizing
Right.
people.
I'm okay.
You know.
It's very interesting. You use the word global warming, and today they use the word climate change because you have some places that go up, and so they were getting themselves in a little trouble with the word global warming, because not every place is warming. Some places are going the opposite direction. But I'm sort of waiting for you to come up with solar panels on the roofs of your cars and on the trunks of the cars. And it just seems like something that at some point you will come up with. I'm sure you'll be the first. But it would seem that a solar panel on the roofs, on flat surfaces, on certain surfaces might be good,
Yeah,
at least in certain areas of the country where you have or the world
sure.
where you have the sun. But I would think, and I have no idea because that's not my world, but I would think that this would be something that would be interesting. But the one thing that I don't understand is that people talk about global warming or they talk about climate change, but they never talk about nuclear warming. And to me,
Sure.
that's an immediate problem because you have, as I said, 5 countries where you have major nuclear, and probably some others are getting there, and that's very dangerous. That's where you need a strong American president because you don't want to have this proliferation. But you have 5 countries and getting more. China is much less than us right now, but they're going to catch us sooner than people think. They're way lower. Russia and us are number one, and I mean, we're sort of tied. And China is far behind, but they're developing at a level that you're not surprised to hear very fast. They'll end up catching up, maybe even
Yeah,
surpassing. But to me, the biggest
yeah,
problem is not climate change. It's not, and everything's a problem, but it's degrees. To me, the big problem is the nuclear power. The power of nuclear is so great. And when I talk
yeah, yeah.
about
Nuclear power is underrated. It's
I'll
awesome.
prevent World War III,
Yeah. Oh,
I will. But the
okay.
truth is that you have to, because this is no longer army tanks going back and forth and shooting at each other. This is
Yeah.
a level of destruction and power that nobody's ever seen before.
Yeah, and actually, there's the bad side of nuclear, which is a nuclear war, very bad side. But there's also, I think, nuclear electricity generation is
Absolutely, you're
underrated,
right.
and it's actually, people have this fear of nuclear electricity generation, but it's actually one of the safest forms of electricity generation. It's just a huge misunderstanding. Um, And if you look at the injuries and deaths, caused by, say, I mean, I'm not going to try to pick on coal mining, but just any kind of mining
Right.
operation, and there's a certain number of injuries and deaths per year. And you compare that to nuclear. Nuclear is actually way better. So it's underrated as an electricity source, and I think it's something that's worth reconsidering. But there's so much regulation that people can't get it done. So that
Maybe they'll have
sort
to
of
change the
have it,
name. The name is just, it's a rough name. There are some areas
yeah, it's a rough
like when
name.
you see what happened in,
Good bad
right,
branding. The
we'll have to
branding's rough.
rebrand it. We'll have to give it a good name. We'll name it after you or something.
No,
No, it
I
has
think
a, hey, it has a branding problem. When you see what happened in
it does have a branding problem.
when you see what happened in Japan, where they say you won't be able to go on the land for about 3,000 years. Did you ever see that? And in Russia, where they had the problem, where there's a lot of bad things happened, and they have a problem. And they say that in 2,000 years, people will start to occupy the land again. You realize it's pretty bad,
No,
but
that's not true.
but you're
Well, no,
right
no,
about it. It's amazing.
it's actually not that bad. So like after Fukushima happened in Japan, like people were asking me in California, are we worried about like a nuclear cloud coming from Japan? I'm like, no, that's crazy. It's actually it's not even dangerous in Fukushima. I actually flew there and ate locally grown vegetables on TV to prove it. Um, and and I donated a solar water treatment, yeah, a solar powered system for a water treatment plant, and
Yeah, but you haven't
because the
been
danger
feeling
is
so
just
well lately, and I'm worried about it.
no, but I mean,
I'm
it's just
only kidding.
it's
I'm only
fine,
kidding.
it's like Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed, but now they're like full cities again. So
Right.
it's
Well, that's
really
great.
not
That's great.
something that
That's
um,
great.
so it's not as scary as people think, basically. But
Yeah.
um, let's see. I mean, are there some other topics we should touch on? Oh, like lawfare. I think
Well,
we need to be concerned about.
what they've done to
Um,
this country.
obviously,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we just won the big
I mean,
case in Florida. This was a Biden administration did something that's never been done in this country, and that's go after their political opponent, me, with this nonsense and just nonsense. And the big case in Florida we won, but they always pick a judge and a jury, and they use local DAs, they use the local attorney generals like Fani, Fani, spelled
yeah,
Fani, Fani, and it's
yeah,
all a big hoax, and it's all run from there, like in Manhattan. The one of the top people from the Justice Department went in, ran Manhattan, ran the state. The Letitia James deal was run by a person from the Department of Justice, Biden. They've never done this before,
Sure.
and they set up a very bad precedent. It's called lawfare, warfare.
Yeah.
It's a terrible thing, and never happened in our country. It does happen in banana republics and third world countries, but it's never
Yeah.
happened. And the incredible thing is it actually drove my numbers up because people see, fortunately I have a platform like you, or, in all fairness, like conversation like this, where I can talk about it and people understand. I mean, you fight for election integrity and you end up getting indicted because you're fighting for election integrity. And when the day comes that you can't fight for election integrity, you don't have a country anymore. So what
Yeah.
happens is they went after their political opponent, me. Now Biden's, close to vegetable stage, in my opinion. Okay, I looked at him today on the beach, and I said, why would anybody allow him? The guy could barely walk. Why would anybody allow him? Does
Yeah.
he have a political advisor that thinks this looks good? He thinks this looks good because it looks so bad, and it's ridiculous. I mean, and he's been doing
Right.
that
Right.
for a long time. He can't lift the chair. The chair weighs about 3 ounces. It's meant for children and old people to lift, and he can't
Yeah.
lift it. The whole thing is
Well,
crazy.
he's clearly not, I mean, he's clearly like we just don't have a president right
You
now.
don't
That's
have a
just obviously the
president, and
case.
she's going to be worse than him
Um,
because she is a San Francisco liberal who destroyed San Francisco, and then as Attorney General, she destroyed California. You talk about location, and we're talking about the sun and the water and all. There's nothing better than California. She has destroyed that. She was the original DA. She was the original in San Francisco. She was the original Attorney General in California. What she has done to California is, well, you know better than I do. You just left California for a lot of those reasons. And what she's done with crime, with cashless bail, where you kill somebody. I mean, we have states there you kill somebody and they let you out right away. I mean, you don't have to even put up, and then they never find the people unless they kill again, and then they let them out again. Our
yeah.
country is becoming a very dangerous place. And she is a radical left San Francisco liberal. And now she's trying to protect. Now she's looking like she wants to be more Trump than Trump, if that's possible. I don't think it's possible, but she wants to be more Trump than
Well,
Trump.
yeah.
I want a wall. I
I
want,
think that's
you know, she
yeah.
wants to release all the
Yeah.
prisoners that are in detention, and some of these guys are really bad.
Right.
That just came
Yeah. I
out
just saw
today.
that.
She
Yeah.
doesn't want to build the wall, even though the walls work. Walls and wheels. In your business, everything you do is obsolete. Almost, well, not the tunnels, but everything is obsolete. Even your rocket ships, they're like a month later, they're obsolete. You find a better way to. The only thing that's not obsolete is a wall and a wheel. And the wall, I built hundreds of miles of wall, and that's why we had such good numbers. I was going to add
Yeah.
200 miles. We bought it. We could have flipped it up in 3 weeks, and they sold it for 5 cents on the dollar. That meant, I said, wow, that means that they actually do want to have open borders. She wants to have open borders, and now she's going like she's tough on the border. It's such a lie.
Yeah. This is simply not true.
Yeah,
This is simply not
no, and
true.
everybody
Yeah.
knows it's
Simply not
not true.
true.
It's a disgrace that she can
Yeah.
say it.
No, I mean, obviously, what's happening sort of overnight is they're rewriting history and making Kamala sound like a moderate when in fact she is far left, like far far
Worse
left.
than Bernie
Um,
Sanders. She is considered more
yeah,
liberal by far than Bernie Sanders. She's a radical left lunatic. And if she's going to be our president, very quickly, you're not going to have a country anymore. And she'll go back to all of
yeah,
the things that she believes in. She believes in defunding the police. She believes in no fracking, zero. You don't. Now all of a
yeah,
sudden she's saying, no, I will. I really want to see fracking. If they got in, the day she got in, she'll end fracking. And by the way, if people didn't think that, the lunatics that really believe in that, they won't vote for her. Like like the
yeah,
Palestinians and Israel. She is so anti-Israel, and she's bad for both. Biden actually did something that was impossible. Both sides hate him. Both sides. That was a hard
yeah.
thing to do. Unification.
Yeah, no, no. Netanyahu came to give a talk to a joint Senate and House sitting, and I was there, and Kamala stood him up. What does that say?
I think
Um,
it's highly
that's
disrespectful. And I say, if you're a Jewish person or if you believe in Israel, if you're a person that, is a very pro-Israel, if you vote for her, it's worse than Biden. And Biden was bad. But if you vote for her, you ought to have your head examined. And you see tonight, I mean, as we're doing this, I'm seeing reports coming that they expect an attack tonight or tomorrow from hundreds and maybe thousands of rockets. Their Iron Dome, as they call it, as we all call it, but their shield that they build, that can be swamped. We'll use the term that's
yeah,
appropriate, swamped. But they
yeah,
swamp it by shooting enough missiles. You know this better than anybody. By shooting enough missiles,
sure.
they can't defend themselves. They just obliterate the whole
Yeah,
place. And that's what some people think they're looking to do. And we have no leadership. There's no respect for the United States of America with these people. And I'm telling you,
yeah,
she'll be worse than him because she's a believer
yeah. No,
in
I
being
think you're right.
radical left, and he wasn't.
I think you're right. I mean, you really, it's important for the public that may be listening to this to look at Kamala's track record, before the last month, and say, is that a track record you agree with? And I think if you're an independent moderate, you definitely would not agree with it, because it is her behavior has been far left, and we're seeing just an overnight propaganda attempt to rewrite history and make it sound like Kamala's moderate when she in fact is not moderate.
Well,
So
her
I think that,
running mate approved, signed into legislation, tampons in boys' bathrooms. Okay, now
yeah,
that's
yeah,
all
that's
I have to
weird.
hear. Tampons in
That's
boys'
weird.
bathrooms, and that means she believes
Yeah,
in that too. I mean,
yeah, that's
she
not
picked
okay.
this guy because he was the closest to her. A lot of people thought she'd pick sort of the opposite, but she picked an anti-Israel radical left person. But she is far worse, they say, than Bernie Sanders. If we have her as a president, if we have a Democrat at this moment as a president, I don't think the country can survive.
I think it's a massive. I think we're in massive trouble, frankly, with the Kamala administration, and that's my honest opinion. Um, and uh, and I think really it's essential that you win for the good of the country for this election. And I mean that's I'm just stating my opinion. Now you may have seen this, but I got a letter from the EU Commission saying to not have disinformation on the during this discussion that we're having and there's a lot of attempts to do censorship and to force censorship even on Americans from other countries and um, what do you think about that?
Well, I know the European Union very well. They take great advantage of the United States in trade, as you know. We, through a different forum, NATO, we protect them. And yet, if you build a car in the United States, you can't sell it in Europe. You just can't sell it. It's impossible. The same thing with our farmers. Our farmers find it very difficult to do business. We have a deficit with them of $250 billion, which people don't know. It sounds so nice, the European Union, but let me tell you, they're not as tough as China, but they're bad. And I let them know it. And that's probably why they notified you. No, they don't treat our country well. We defend them, with Ukraine. So we're in for 250 billion, and they're in for about 71 billion, and they have the same size. It's if you add up the European nations that in terms of an economy, it's about the same size. When you say as us, and they're in
Yeah,
and they're in much greater risk. They're right there. We have an ocean separating us from, in this case, the enemy would be Russia. Used to be for the
yeah,
Soviet Union, but let's assume they're close enough. And what happens is uh, they're in for 70 something million. I think even less than that, billion, and we're in for about 250 billion, and it could be a lot higher than that. And I say, why aren't you going to equalize? Why aren't they paying what we're paying? And they're in much more, it's much more important for them because of the fact that, they're right near there. I mean, they're all sort of in that location. We're not. But they
Yeah.
should they should, and I did it with NATO. There were only 7 countries that were paid up in NATO out of 28 at the time, and the United States
Yeah.
was subsidized.
Yeah.
The United States was subsidizing NATO, tremendously subsidizing NATO. And I went
Yeah.
in and I said, you
Yeah.
got to pay up. If you don't pay up, we're not going to defend you any longer. I took a lot of heat, but you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in, and
Yeah. I know the public isn't aware of the fact that the United States disproportionate share of the NATO expenses,
and then we get
even though
taken
like
advantage of on trade. So think
yeah,
about it.
well, I mean, the point of NATO is defending Europe, and it's it's like then okay, well, why is the United States paying disproportionately more to defend Europe than Europe? That doesn't make sense. That's unfair, and that is an appropriate thing to address.
Well,
Um,
when you talk about
so
cost cutting and savings and everything else, I mean, honestly, look, there's nobody that feels worse about the Ukraine situation than I do because I know it would have never happened. I know Zelensky. He was very honorable to me because when they went with the Russia hoax and they said I had a phone call with him, he said it was a perfect phone call. It was a great phone call. He could have grandstanded and, said, oh, he was very threatening. He said, no, it was a very nice phone call. I called him up to congratulate him on his win, and you end up getting impeached because these people are
yeah, yeah,
lunatics. I was talking about the difference from the people within and the enemies on the outside. In many cases, the people from within are more dangerous for our country than the Russias and the Chinas. If you have a smart president, you're not going to have a problem with them. You're going to do things.
yeah,
Now they've taken advantage
yeah,
of us
absolutely.
incredibly, but you're going to do things with the right person.
Yeah, well, I think it's obvious that you're a believer and an advocate of free speech because during your first term as president, you were attacked relentlessly every day, often very unfairly with false attacks, and you didn't try to shut down the media, you didn't try to uh, inhibit their freedom of speech, and I think that says a lot.
Well, the good thing is that you and I have, and some people, very few, we can get the word out. Although sometimes it's hard because they don't want to print it. Like we're having a great conversation right now. Kamala wouldn't have this conversation. She can't because she's not
No.
smart. She's not a smart person, by the way. She can't have this conversation. And Biden, we don't even have to talk about it. I mean, he couldn't have this conversation. He would have given up on the first half of a question. He would have walked out. He would have said, "Where am I? Where am I going?" So anyway, but
Yeah,
no, he wouldn't have this.
that's true.
Not a lot of people would have this conversation, but we cover a lot of territory. But the beauty is that we can have a conversation, and
Yes, you can
I'm
actually
able
have a
to get it
conversation.
out without because I get treated
This is a
unfairly
this
by
is
the
a really
press.
big point. You can actually have a conversation with you,
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
and you can't have a conversation with Biden or Kamala. It's like not it's not possible.
That's true.
Um,
It's
so this is like talking to an NPC.
no.
So it's just
Well,
impossible.
but think of it. We need a man or person who's unbelievably sharp in order to stop all the nuclear danger and all the dangers that I'm talking about. And I got along with all these. I got along with Kim Jong Un. We had dinner, we had everything, and he really liked me, and I got along with him really well. By the way, he's the absolute boss over there. A lot of people said, "Oh, do you think he really?"
That's for
Let me
sure.
tell you, I saw things that you don't want to know about. He is the boss. But we had a good relationship, and he doesn't like Biden. He considers him a stupid man. He said he's a stupid man. Well, at least he speaks his mind. But in this country, you're not sort of allowed to say it, but I guess you are. You should be allowed to say it if
Yeah,
it's true. But we need smart people, and we need people that have an ability to lead. And she doesn't have that ability. Can you imagine? Now,
yeah.
Chairman Xi very well. Can you imagine her and him negotiating or
No, it's
even
silly. It would be
standing
silly.
together? It is the whole concept
Yeah.
is ridiculous. She is terrible. She's terrible. But she's getting a free ride. I
It
saw a
would.
picture of her
Yeah, yeah,
on Time Magazine today. She looks like the most beautiful actress ever to live. It was a drawing, and
yeah,
actually,
yeah.
she looked very much like our great first lady, Melania. She looked, she looked, didn't look,
Yeah.
she didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a beautiful woman, so we'll leave it at that, right?
Yeah, well, maybe like I think part of what people in America want to, people in America want to feel excited and inspired about the future. They want to feel like the
It's
future is
true.
going to be better than the past, and that America is going to do things that are greater than we've done in the past reach
Right.
new heights that make you proud to be an American and excited about the future. Um,
They want the
I
American
think
dream
this,
back. They want the American dream back. More important than anything else. It's like you don't have that today because the people they've been just sucked. They see incompetent people running our. You know, the Biden thing is very interesting. People just found him to be incompetent, and when I debated him, I was like, "Is this for real?" It was
yeah, it was just absurd. But I think there are like some grand projects that we could do. I mean, I think like we could build a base on the moon. We could send American astronauts to Mars. We
right.
could build high speed
Yep.
connections that are more advanced than anything else in the world between our cities, so people have fast transport. Um, it's possible to solve traffic with tunnels.
That's right.
We already made great progress in Vegas doing that, and and just do things that are exciting and inspiring and make the future feel like it's better than the past.
Well, I saw
And
what you did in Vegas, and I'll tell you, it was amazing. I got to see. I took a big glimpse at it, and it's incredible. It's incredible, and you could do that all over. You could do that all over. It's deep.
yeah,
You
and
don't
that's
even need much structure. Assuming you're in the right areas.
no, it's
It's
straightforward.
amazing.
So I think we could do some things that like China's got incredible high speed rail between its cities, but I think it's actually possible with tunnels if with deregulation with an ability to actually where it's like legal to actually do the tunnels. Then you could have high speed tunnels that are actually better than anything else in the world for high speed transport between
Yeah.
cities, and that would be something that Americans can say, "Wow, okay, we've got something that's cooler than anyone else in the
Yeah.
world." That's the kind of thing that makes you proud to be an
And
American.
much safer than surface trains where there is a danger there, with people, with crazy
Yeah,
people. It's much safer, much better. And, it's sad because I've seen some of the greatest trains. I find it fascinating. And I've seen the systems and how they work, and the bullet trains, they call them, I guess. And
yeah,
they go unbelievably fast, unbelievably comfortable with no problems. And we don't have anything like that in this country, not even close. And
yeah.
it doesn't make sense that we don't. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think also like there's I'm kind of hopping on the excess regulation, but I think something that um like I think people can generally understand is that what happens with laws and regulations is that there's more and more of them every year, and unless there's a process to clean them up, eventually everything becomes
You're right.
illegal, and that actually it slows down the development of new technologies. I mean, if you take the sort of like I think there's room for some reform at the FDA
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
improving the speed with which we approve drugs that could help save lives and improve people's
Yeah.
lives. Um, and
I
uh,
worked very
and
hard
and
on that.
you know
We got that down
yeah,
to the lowest number ever, and we got therapeutics approved in the FDA that people can't even believe the speed. But I took them on. I don't think they like me too much, but I got things approved and the FDA at numbers that they wouldn't believe. And it's a very bureaucratic group. Actually, it's a fine group of people in many cases. I got to know a lot of them, but I was pushing them really hard for Regeneron, for so many different things that were really pretty amazing. But the FDA takes too long. It's 12 years to get a product approved. I got it down to 4, and I
yeah.
got some things done very quickly. But it's really something that is going to have to be worked on because it takes too long. Just takes too long.
Yeah, it just takes too long, and it's you end up in the same with the approval, but it's just it takes years instead of something that I think could potentially take
Yeah,
months, that improves people's lives. And I
yeah,
think I just wanted to sort of hop on this point that like there has to be an active process for reducing rules and regulations, because otherwise they just keep building up every year, and
yep,
you get like hardening of the arteries, and eventually everything's illegal or takes forever, and then we just ossify as a society. We can't make any
yeah.
progress, and that's it's a really big
Well,
deal.
Elon, just
So
getting back to the FDA for 1 second, I got something done called Right to Try. This is where you can go in and if you're terminally ill, you can use a space age, medicine or whatever it may be. We have the best doctors, the best labs in the world. We really do. And but people would go to other countries because you couldn't use the product, even if they thought it worked, because it's going through the FDA. I got it approved
Yeah,
where you can
yeah,
you basically you look. Nobody wanted, the doctors didn't want it because of the liability. The country didn't want it, our country, because they didn't want to get sued. These are people terminally ill. The insurance companies didn't want it, and the pharmaceutical companies. Nobody wanted it. I got everybody into a room, and we came up with an agreement that you won't get sued. And also, they didn't want it on their record. If somebody's terminally ill and they die after taking a drug, they didn't want that on their record. So we set a separate list. If somebody was, so it wouldn't count as a negative.
yeah,
Okay. And as you know, we got it
yeah,
done. We have saved, right to try. They've been trying to get this done for 58
yeah.
years. And it sounds simple, but it wasn't, because, I mean, the insurance companies, nobody wanted it, but we got it done.
Sure.
Somebody signs, you sign a document that you're not going to sue the insurance companies, the country, you're not going to sue anybody. And we got it done. And we're saving tens of thousands of lives, right to try. Hopefully you never need it. But if you
Yeah.
do, you don't have to travel to Asia. People,
Right.
if they had money, they go to
Yeah.
Asia, they go
Sure.
to Europe. If they don't have money, they go home and die. That's what happened. They'd go home and
Yeah.
die.
Well, I mean, and actually, to give Europe some props here, it's like if a drug is approved in Europe, which has a crazy amount of regulations, it should obviously be approved in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, they got more regulations than we do. So why would a drug be approved in Europe and not in the U.S.? That's crazy.
Well, we did it. We did
Um,
something that really, they've been trying to do it for 50 years, and they just couldn't get it done, and I got it done. And it's really something. But you're right. Some people go to Europe because a drug isn't approved here, but it's approved in Europe, and it's a drug that, generally speaking, would
yeah,
work. It's pretty crazy. You're
absolutely.
right.
And I think so, as long as people are properly informed of the pros and cons and like these are the risks, this is the risk, and like you make your own decision.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, I think just,
So
in sort of closing up, and by the way, I'm looking at the numbers. You got a lot of people listening. I hope you don't get
yeah,
nervous, because you got a lot of people listening to you right now, like 60 million or something. What is that number? It's crazy. It's amazing how you can see that right away. How many? What is the number? Wow. What is it?
well,
Wow.
I think in
Wow,
terms of
that's a
people
that's a
that
big that's bigger than you said. You said 25, and you're much more than double that number, 25 million. I think you're going to be 60 or 70. And I guess over a period of time, hey, I congratulate you. Do I get paid for this or not?
well, I think actually in terms of the number of people that will hear this conversation over the next few days to
Right.
weeks, it's going to be hundreds of
That's what they
millions.
say. Yeah, that's good. Well, look, it's an
Yeah.
honor. Yeah, I just asked this, are you better off now, or were you better off when I was president? Nobody's better off now. People, we put out polls on that, and nobody's better off now. Inflation has killed it. And they also feel very unsafe. You look at what's going on with a lot of different things. You look at the riots we had at the
Yeah.
colleges over, I mean, it's ridiculous, but
Right.
all of the riots, they just feel unsafe. And now they really feel unsafe because you have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. I call it Biden
Well,
migrant
yeah.
crime. Maybe I'll call it
Well,
Kamala migrant crime. But
I mean, with all these things, I always try to get to the ground truth by just asking people. And my mom lives in New York, and I was like, Mom, do have any of your friends, been attacked or assaulted? And she said, yeah, three of her friends in three
it's
separate
crazy.
incidents were assaulted just in recent months, just walking around the streets of New York. And I said, well, what happened to the people that assaulted them? Oh, nothing. They got away. Like, and they just
They
know that
always get away.
nothing's going. And they don't ever, and they don't even bother reporting it because there's not. They know that there's not. They're not going to. People are not going to get prosecuted. They just let violent criminals out in New York
The only one
with
that gets
zero bail.
prosecuted is Donald Trump. They don't get, they prosecute Trump.
Yeah, I mean it's just obviously messed up
Oh, it's terrible.
if violent criminals are being getting off scot
Yep.
free, and meanwhile the New York spending massive resources prosecuting you, and it's like what's this and I think the sort of sensible public looks at this and says, "What the heck's going on here? This is obviously abuse of the legal system." Um, the legal system is supposed to be protecting the
That's right.
public from violent criminals, and it should be obviously allowing the public to make their own decision about who should be president, as opposed to some legal case.
Once they start this precedent, because this can go on with the next one. I mean, this is a very bad precedent what they're doing in terms of going after their political opponent, and that's all it is. It's going after their political opponent,
Yeah,
and then you get a judge who's a strong Democrat, and I'm being nice when I say that. In many cases, crooked as hell, but you get a judge and you go into an area where a Republican gets 3 or 4% of the vote, and you'll have a jury pool
yeah,
with people that hate Republicans or hate. It could
sure,
also be the other way though,
of course,
because it could start the other way in areas where they hate
exactly.
Democrats, and you get into a
Yep,
Pandora's box. It's a very dangerous thing for this country, and a very dangerous thing even for the state. New York City is
yep,
losing. New York
absolutely.
City and state lose a lot of business over what they did to me, because these people say we don't want that to happen to us. That's no justice system. You have an unfair system of
Yes,
justice, and it's costing New York State a tremendous amount of money. People are leaving and companies are leaving, and they won't come back. So all of that stuff is important, but the economy now is the big thing, and we can turn that economy up so fast, and people are going to be back again. We're going to get rid of
yeah. I
inflation.
think there's a lot of
Right.
opportunity. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So
And I just
I
want
think
to
I
I want to
think
congratulate you. You've done an amazing job. You have definitely got a fertile mind. We can talk. You and I can talk about rockets and
it's kind of you to say. Thank you.
tunnels. We can talk about tunnels and rockets and electric cars. So many things. And now you're into the AI, and that's going to be another beauty, I'll say. So
Yeah.
it's an amazing thing you've done, Elon. It's an amazing thing, and I
Well,
congratulate you.
I mean, thank you. And well, I mean, I just say here, here's to an exciting, inspiring future that people can look forward to and be optimistic and excited about what happens next. And that's the kind of future that I think you will bring as president, and that's why I endorse you.
Well, I appreciate that. That endorsement meant a lot to me. Not all endorsements mean that much, to be honest. Your endorsement meant a lot. And, we have a phrase, make America great again. It's pretty simple, but it really says that we want to make America great again. And we can do it. We can do it now. But if we were going to suffer another 4 years like we've suffered for the last 4 years, I'm not sure the country can ever come back. That's how bad it is. It's so bad. We have to do a lot
I
of
think that's a
things.
very real
Yeah,
risk.
it's a big
That's a
risk.
very real risk.
Yeah.
And it's I'd just like to note to people listening, like I've not been very political before, and if you look at my record, I've actually been I'm not like some they try to paint me as like a far right guy, which is absurd because I'm like making electric vehicles and solar and batteries helping with the environment, and and I actually I supported Obama. I stood in line for 6 hours to shake Obama's hand when he was running for president, and so it's not like I'm like some sort of dyed in the wool long term Republican. I call myself, uh, historically a moderate Democrat, and but now I feel like we're really at a critical juncture for the country, and uh, I think a lot of people thought the Biden administration would be a moderate administration, but it's not, and obviously we're just going to see an even further left uh, administration with Kamala. That's my honest opinion. I mean, her dad is literally. I mean, she was brought up as an actual. Her dad is a Marxist economist. That's you can Google it. I mean, it's not a. We're not making this up. That's how she was brought up. So. And we want to have a future that is prosperous, and I think we're just at this critical juncture, and I think this is a case of the America is going to at a fork in the road,
It's true.
and I think it will take if the path to, like you are the path to prosperity, and I think Kamala is the opposite. Then that's my honest opinion. I'm gonna get attacked like crazy, and I've also experienced quite a bit of lawfare myself. And but I'm just trying to tell people my honest opinion, and I haven't been really active in politics before, and I'm just trying to point out that my track record historically has been moderate, if not moderate, slightly left, So this is to people out there who are in the moderate camp to say, I think you should support um, Donald Trump for president. I think it's actually a very important junction in the road, and we're in deep trouble if it goes the other way.
Well, I want to thank you. And, I actually always did think of you as somewhat left. I must say that. So it's
Yeah.
even more of an
Well, that's,
honor to have
yeah.
your endorsement. I know how strong you feel about it. But, when you think of her, San Francisco, 15 years ago, I had a great friend, Bob Tish. He said it's the greatest city in America, and now it's almost not livable there. And California likewise. And she was involved in the destruction of San Francisco and the destruction of California, and she will be involved in the destruction of our country if people are so unwise as to elect her. And I hope that doesn't happen, and I hope the elections are going to be run honestly, and we're going to turn this country around. We're going to do things and we can do it fairly quickly. And we have to get rid of the criminals that have been, given to us by other countries as they laugh. They laugh at
Yeah.
us. They think we're stupid to accept these people. These are radical, stone cold killers in many cases and terrorists. And they're in our country by the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
And we have to take
Yeah.
them out.
Yeah, I mean, if I could summarize it, perhaps, I think these are issues that I think most people in America would agree with, which is that we want safe and clean cities, we want secure borders, we want sensible government spending, we want to restore both the perception and reality of respect in the judicial system, stop the lawfare, and I think that's like, and how are those even right wing positions? I think those are that's just common sense, and that's I mean, would you agree with that?
100%. I don't understand, the whole, they call it progressive. They don't like the word liberal anymore, but call it liberal or progressive. I don't understand how somebody could say that it's okay for them to empty prisons into our country. And again, I told you their
Yeah,
crime rates
definitely
all
not
over the world
okay.
are going way down, which makes sense. In fact, the next time what we'll do is if something happens with this election, which would be a horror show, we'll meet the next time in Venezuela because it'll be a far safer place to meet than our country. Okay. So we'll go, you and I will go and we'll have a meeting and dinner in Venezuela because that's what's happening. Their crime rate's coming down and our crime rate's going through the roof. And it's so simple. And you haven't seen anything yet because these people have come into our country and they're just getting acclimated. And they don't know about being politically correct law enforcement or lack of law enforcement. And our police, I have to just end with this. We have great police, we have great law enforcement, but they're not allowed to do their job. They have to be able to do their
Yeah.
job without being destroyed.
Well, absolutely, and it's obviously demoralizing if you're a police officer risking your life to arrest violent criminals who could kill you and do kill you sometimes, and then you arrest the violent criminal, and then the DA doesn't prosecute, and they just let the guy out.
Right.
Well, then, like, why should a police officer risk their life uh, to arrest a violent felon
Well, even worse,
if
Elon,
nothing's going to happen?
even worse, they prosecute the police officer. They go after it and they prosecute the police officer and they take away his pension. They take away his
Yeah.
job. He loses his family. He loses his house.
Well, I thought it was very telling, like incredibly telling, that when there was that case where sort of a gang of thugs beat up police officers. I think it was in Times
Yep.
Square in New York, and and then nothing happened to those guys. They were let out, zero bail, and I think a bunch of them were given free tickets to California. Well, what is I mean, that is a gross indignity against the United States, and that's how, I mean, this is insane. Like, have we lost all pride? What that how can such a thing be allowed to occur?
I've never seen anything.
You know?
We see where they get shot. It's a very dangerous profession, but it's something they're very proud of and they want to be able to do their job. But I've seen them get shot. I've seen a lot of things. But I've never seen where these guys are standing in the middle of a big street, everybody watching them, and they're literally boxing, like punching, stand up fighting a police officer. There were two of them, and you
Yeah,
had about six
yeah,
of
yeah.
these guys, and they're punching the hell out of them. And in their own country, they would be dead if they did that. They'd be shot. They
Yes.
would be shot instantly. And they come from these countries, and it's taking them a while to realize that We don't do that in this country. But in their own
Yeah,
country, if they stood on a street and had a fight with a police officer, they would be shot. There's no political correctness. And
yeah. It's
it's
just
such a sad thing to see. And that's the reason you have crime, by the way,
yeah,
because we don't do anything about
yeah.
it.
Yeah, we just cannot have a situation where our police officers are beaten up on camera by a gang of illegal immigrants, and then nothing happens to the guys that beat up the cops. I mean, and they're let out. This is
Well, we're going to
unacceptable.
change it,
Um,
and we're going to get them out of the country. You know, when I first got involved, they said you couldn't get them back to these countries. You couldn't take them back. In the case of Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, some others, you couldn't get them back. And I said, really? Oh, you can't get them back because under Obama, he couldn't get them back. They'd fly them in, and they'd put planes on the runways in these countries, so you couldn't land the plane. They'd bring them back. And the generals told me, sir, we can't bring them back. The countries won't accept MS-13 gang members. They won't accept them. And I said, really, how much do we pay these various countries in terms of economic aid, which is also somewhat ridiculous? And the answer was $750 million. I said, good. Tell them they're in default. They're delinquent. We're not paying them anymore because they won't accept
yeah,
their.
it's
And you know what happened? They all called me,
yeah,
every one
yeah,
of them. They said, we would be honored to take them back, sir. We would be honored. It was so easy, but it's one of those things. And we got them back. We took in so many, the MS-13 is probably
yeah,
the worst gangs in the world. They're the most vicious, violent. We took them out of here by the thousands and got them out of here, and their countries took them back. And because I said, you're not getting any more economic aid. And once I said that, they were nice. They wouldn't take them back for
yeah,
Obama. They
yeah.
wouldn't take them back for anybody. And now we have a problem because we have this guy, and they don't take him back anymore with Biden because they don't respect him.
Yeah, yeah. It's just gotta be done. We just can't have whether they're citizens or not citizens. We can't have because they won't prosecute citizens either. Not just illegals. So that if it's you can't have violent repeat violent offenders that are not that don't get
That's
incarcerated
right.
because they will obviously by definition continue to hurt people. And I think where part of this comes from is that there's and I do sort of consider myself liberal in some ways. I mean, it's just that you want to have empathy for
Right.
people. Obviously, you want to have empathy for people. I totally agree with that. You want to have empathy, but you also have to have empathy for the victims of the criminals. And if you just have empathy for the criminals, it's actually shallow empathy. It's not real. You're not thinking. You have one layer deep empathy. You got to say like, what if you don't incarcerate this person? Who are they going to uh, hurt? Who are they might kill someone. They might rape someone. If you don't incarcerate them, you have to have empathy for the victims. And there's a lack of empathy for the victims of the criminals, and too much empathy for the criminals. It doesn't make sense. That's why you want to have deep empathy for society as a whole, not shallow empathy for
That's right.
criminals.
And we have to give our police officers the dignity and the respect that they deserve. And we have to let them do their job. They can do a great job, but we have to let them do their job. And if we don't do that, it's going to all disappear. There's never been a society like this where you're allowed to do anything you want and nothing happens. And I'm talking about violent crime. And it's going to get more violent because these are really, really violent people, and we're going to get them out of our country, and we're going to get them back to because they were sent here by the presidents and by the various people that run those countries. And I know every one of those guys, and they're smart people, and they're streetwise people. And they really think that the USA is stupid. They think we're run by stupid people, and they happen to be right. But when I was there, we had no problem. We got them out. We took out thousands of MS-13 gang members. We brought them back. And now, again, it's the same old story. We don't do it. And they actually gave them a big increase in aid. They raised it up to billions of dollars, and they get nothing for it. So I hope everybody's going to vote for Trump, and we're going to get this country straight. And
Yeah.
I didn't need this.
I,
I'm like you. I didn't need this. I had a very nice
yeah.
life. I didn't need to go
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
court systems and go through all the other stuff and run at the
Sure.
same time. I have to run. I have to go through fake trials with, in some cases, corrupt judges, totally corrupt judges. I didn't need it. I had a nice life. I have great locations. I have beautiful oceans that I have places. This was, but I felt it was important. And if I had to do it over again, you probably think I'm crazy for doing it, actually. But if I had to do it over again, I would have done it over again, because this is so much more important than me or my life. We're going to save this country. This country is going down. And these people are bad people that we're running against, and they're liars. They make statements. They do things that are so bad. They say they're going to make a strong border. They say they've been great on the border, and they've been the worst in history. They say they're
Yeah,
going to
it's
stop
horrible. Like
crime,
the
and
facts speak for themselves. The
it's so
facts, yeah,
incredible.
speak for themselves. Like it's gotten to the point where people just don't even bother reporting crime in a lot of
That's
cities
right.
because they know nothing is going to happen. Um, that's what I hear anecdotally from people all the time. So it's just my values. I'm just saying to people out there, like the things I think are important for the future is like we've got to have safe cities, we've got to have secure borders, we've got to have sensible spending, and we've got to have deregulation, and
Right.
so we can have a prosperous future. And then we want to have some exciting, sort of moonshot projects that people can get fired up about. And that's the future I'm looking for. And I'm pro environment, but I'm not against. I'm not like I don't think we should vilify the oil and gas industry because they're keeping civilization going right now, and but I do think we want to move at a reasonable speed towards a sustainable energy economy. Those are my values, and I think um, and so I mean that's uh, why I'm supporting you for president.
Well, I
So
appreciate it. We're going to give incentive to companies to come into our country, not to leave our country. We're going to be giving tremendous incentives. We want companies to build here, not to build in other locations. And we want to create jobs. And again, it's about the American dream. You don't hear about the American dream anymore, Elon. You're the American dream in the truest sense, but you don't hear about the American dream anymore. And you're going to hear about it. People, they need that incentive to go out
yeah,
and do it, and they're going to love their lives. I mean, they're going to look forward to getting up in the morning and going to a job that they love, not a job that they can't stand, or not any job at all, where they have no money, where they
yeah,
literally have no money, and then they end up with violence and lots of other problems. No, we're
yeah.
going to do some great things, and I learned a lot in the first. We had a great economy and all of that. We rebuilt the military, we did so much, but I also learned the best people. I learned the good people, the smart people, the dumb people, the people that can do things. The people, you learn. When I first came in, I tell people I was in Washington D.C. only 17 times, according to the fake news media. I was in 17 times. I never stayed over. And you don't know people. You rely on other people to give you names, and then you realize the people you relied on weren't so good. Now, we had great people, but we also had some where I wouldn't have, used them had I known. Now I
Yeah.
know everybody. And I think we're going to really turn things around fast. We have no choice. Otherwise, we're not going to have a country. And I really appreciate this. To me, it's been a lot of fun being with you. You're an amazing guy. You've done an incredible job and a great inspiration to people, a great inspiration. And I hope you keep going and just continue to do well. And we're going to have a big election coming up. And I think November 5th will be the most important day in the history of our country. I think that election will be the most important election. And I think it'll end up being maybe the most important day in the history of our country, because if
Yeah.
we don't win, I just feel so sorry for everybody.
No, I think we're at a fork in the road of destiny of civilization, and I think we need to take the right path, and I think you're the right path. So I think
Well,
that's what it comes down to.
thank you very much, Elon. It's a great honor, and we'll do it again sometime. And it's been really fun, and I hope you got a lot of viewers. I hear you got a lot, but I hope you
Sure.
got
Yeah.
I know you got a lot of them. So I appreciate it. I'll see you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Elon. Thank you very much. Bye.